It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Christina, and Jason are all here. The gang is together. We got lots to talk about. A huge dump of new Macs coming. It is not the right word, dump, is it? Coming at the end of the year, according to Mark Gurman. Plus, a bunch of new home stuff, including Apple TVs and HomePods. We'll talk about that. The new Apple Lease-to-Own deal they just announced. Should you take advantage of it? What are the pros and cons? And public beta 2 from iOS 27 and why you absolutely must upgrade your Mac. All of that coming up right now on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 1035, recorded Tuesday, July 28th, 2026. Riding nerdy. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. Let's say hello to our dear friends, Christina Warren from GitHub. Hello, Christina.
Hello, Leo.
We were comparing makeup tips earlier.
We were.
As one does.
As one does. You wear a darker shade than me, but that's to be expected.
And they used to call it on the Tech TV set, White Boy 40, but maybe I'm not quite as pale as thou.
Funny story. MSNBC, they used to keep a certain shade of makeup for me and for Anna Marie and for me and Anna Marie Cox because we were both so pale that they we were on frequently enough that they kept that, and that's what the makeup artist said. They're like, yeah, we only use this for you and Anna Marie Cox. I was like,
wow,
okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's a good company.
Yeah.
Andy Anako joining us, makeup free in the library. Well, I shouldn't say that. You actually have a very lovely complexion.
Thank you. It comes from basically being an indoor kid.
Oh, you don't have a night ritual or a variety of creams?
Yeah, my night ritual is to stay up until 3 a.m. doing stuff
yes,
that I shouldn't be
I know
doing.
That feeling. Good to see you, Andy. And also from sixcolors.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the lovely Jason Snell.
Hello,
Jason.
Leo. Yeah, warming up my my color toner cartridge because we'll get some Apple results later this week, so that'll be exciting.
This is the wait a minute, 1, 2, 3. This is the I can never remember what their fiscal quarter is.
It's going to be retrospective to the calendar second quarter, so it's their fiscal third quarter.
You can't either. Okay, good. I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah.
Wow. Even the guy who does the color charts.
I have computers for that part of my job, Leo.
God,
I don't need to.
Yeah.
I don't need to deal with it. It doesn't matter why are we even? It's fiscal second quarter. Nope.
Oh, see?
Third quarter.
Nope.
Third quarter. That's it.
Anyway,
Calendar second
Thursday?
quarter, fiscal third quarter.
Got it.
Basically for this last 3 months. So April, May, June, going to be interesting. Going to find out what they say about their price increases and about the forecast for where they think this is going to go in terms of the RAM limitations and the GPU, chip limitations and all of that. And we'll get all of that. That's Thursday afternoon Pacific time that they'll roll that out. And I'm sure we'll have a bunch of charts to talk about next week because that's what happens.
Tell you the one thing that will be asked about is this new lease plan that Apple announced. Or did they announce it, or is it the Bloomberg?
Oh,
no,
it's out.
Bloomberg had it. Bloomberg had it last week. Apple had a press release this morning.
Okay, so it's official.
It's real.
It's official. So they had this before, but this is a new plan. They dropped the old plan. Klarna will be doing the financial backstopping. I don't think that matters to anybody, right? Is Klarna is it a buy now pay later service?
Yeah, I mean it's a loan shark, but they don't want to use those words.
That's another way to put it.
Yeah,
their stock jumped, so obviously the market thought, "Ooh, this is good." And I feel like Apple is saying this because they know the new stuff's going to cost more, and you're not going to be able to own it. It's going to be like when I was a kid getting out of college without a good job. I had to rent to own my furniture.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, Apple does not want to get that kind of reputation. As with when they released the Apple Card, like the biggest worry that I had was going to be, okay, as soon as there are lots and lots of people complaining about how conflict resolutions are not being handled very, very well, and or someone is locked into a financial agreement that they didn't understand, and that seems to be, again, like going to a rent-to-own store and spending $6,000 for a $1,200 gaming PC by the time you get out of the contract. That will be super, super bad. But you can also see how Apple, again, because of the Apple Card experience, these financial agreements, they have so many different regulations across the country and across the world to deal with. I'm not surprised that if they wanted to do this, they would say, you know what? You guys handle it all. We are not in the business of trying to figure out how to be compliant everywhere that we're in operation.
Yeah. By the way, for those of you who are listening, and I apologize, the audio I know is not perfect today, and I'm not sure why. We've tried everything in our handbag to fix this.
It's Zoom's fault.
We think it's the Zoom server, so I do apologize, and I hope it will get better as time.
Do not adjust your routers.
I will.
Yeah. Yes, Christina.
No, I was just going to say, I will say, from having looked at this program a little bit, there are certainly concerns that I have with any of these buy now, pay later types of programs. Although to Andy's point, I do understand why Apple in most cases has chosen to partner with someone else. They use Citizens Bank, I think, for the current iPhone upgrade program.
I thought they had abandoned that. That's still around.
Well, no, that is ending. But that's who they used historically was Citizens Bank. They used back in the day they used to use Barclays. You could do finance.
Somebody has to do that.
You could do financing with the Apple Card, which is switching from Goldman Sachs. I think it's becoming Chase, if that's correct. This case, it's Klarna is who's handling this. And I will say, looking at the details, and I'm sure that I'm probably missing some of the finer points, but it doesn't look terrible in the sense that as long as you, like, they basically give you a certain period of time, either a 2 or a 3 year period of time to make payments on the product. You get a better deal if you do it over 3 years than over 2, for example. And if you are to, at the end of that period of time, you've actually paid less than what the phone costs and you can upgrade to a newer device. But if you did want to keep your existing device, you just have to pay the difference between your payments and whatever the retail price on the phone was. So it is a lease program, but there is an option to buy, and it does not look like they are charging you more. Now, unlike the prior program, which included Apple Care bundled into it, Apple Care is not included here. And if anybody, I will say, wants to take part in one of these, this new upgrade program,
you should get Apple Care.
You have. I'm going to go as far as to say you have to, because they will inspect your phone when you turn it back in. Klarna will. It won't be like necessarily an Apple thing, and they will determine its quality and anything else. And so if there's a scratch, if it's lost, if it's stolen, anything like that, that's a claim you have to make separately. And I know from other companies who've done this sort of thing, they can be real sticklers. If the phone isn't pristine, they'll say, oh no, well, you haven't fulfilled our contract, even though it's been 3 years. The fact that you have like a scratch on the back of it means that we're now not going to let you either upgrade or you're going to have to pay something else. So I would say that Apple Care is even more important if you're going to do a lease scenario than if you were to buy it outright, just because you will be responsible. Like, for instance, if your phone is stolen, you would have to file a claim on that and then fulfill still, your payments with the loan.
That's a particularly good point, because this is a good quote unquote deal for people who are in financial situations where they will not get $800 together at any one point to spend to buy a new phone. However, they can find $18 a month to find in their budget. But if the lease period ends and suddenly Klarna is saying, okay, well, you owe us $430 for damage to this phone, that's going to be, okay, who do we eat this month? Do we pay our rent this month, or do we satisfy Apple / Klarna with these
That's why you call them a loan shark, Christina, right?
Well,
they're kind of predatory.
Well, I call them that because, and look, I think Klarna is different than a firm. A firm is probably, and look, this is all my opinion. So if anybody's going to come after anybody, this is my opinion. I think that these systems tend to be predatory. And Klarna is a Swedish company, I think, and so I know maybe operate slightly differently in other regions. But in the United States, they can give you really good terms on a program and then raise the rates, but there are all kinds of catches here. Like if you miss a certain number of payments, then the entire thing becomes due or the contract is over. So this is just one of those things you want to be careful about. This particular way this is working, I'm not necessarily sure I would call it loan shark like, but I would still say be very careful before you go into this, because even if it's not a financial decision, like you might actually look at it and say, I could afford to buy this outright, but I'll take an interest-free loan. This is not the same thing as, putting it on a credit card where you're not being charged interest. This is a different sort of situation, and you just need to be aware of that, I think, before going into it.
Who should do this, Jason?
I think Andy and Christina both said this is for people who, for whatever reason, would rather stretch out their payments over time rather than making that initial large purchase. And there can be lots of reasons for that, especially if the terms are essentially that you're not really paying interest and the monthly payment looks good. And that after 12 months or 24 months, you're going to hand the phone back in. Like, you just got to do the math. And the iPhone upgrade program did a version of this. It's different, but it's similar. Mm-hmm. And the Apple Care, I agree with Christina, the Apple Care is optional now, but all that really means is you also need to buy Apple Care on top of it to do that.
So consider that.
But it can, I know a lot of people, including people who do have money in the bank, mm-hmm. who are like, I would rather have a tithe to Apple for my iPhone every month that is normal than do it this way. Now, you could, or then buy it outright. The thing is, you could also, and I would advise anybody who's thinking about doing this, consult your carrier, because your carrier will also be happy to do some sort of a deal where they add it onto your monthly bill in a way, and they have deals and they have marketing too. So there are other ways of doing this. I think the most interesting thing about this is that Apple is going to wind down the iPhone upgrade program eventually. And there are no new entrants in that now. I think you can stay there for some amount of time if you're already a member. But what they did is, this is not an iPhone upgrade program. This is an upgrade program for all their products. So, now if you wanted to buy a Mac and take it out 24 months or 36 months, you could do that too. And, bottom line, I think it comes down to what you feel financially comfortable with doing with your money. I've always been a pay up front kind of person, but I've also had the luxury to have the money in the bank to pay up front. And if you don't, or if budget wise, you'd really rather spread that out and you look at something that's essentially a zero interest loan as a way to do that with no cost to you, then I think there's value here. Also, this being a lease, it does mean the big change, and this was true with the iPhone upgrade program too, is at the end of your contract, unless you buy it out, you give it back. So you don't, if people are used to the other way you could do this, which is you buy it outright once, and then when you're ready to get a new one, you sell that one and buy a new one. And so the entry price is a lot lower. That's not the case when you're on one of these plans. You've got to give it back and then start again.
Yeah, I've actually been on the iPhone upgrade program for a while now. And I used to kind of be like Jason. Actually, for many years, I would just buy it outright and then sell it after a year, trade it in, usually get 50% of my value, and then just buy the new one. And I did that for a long time. And I actually moved to the upgrade program because I was like, well, it's one less step. And this is a way to get the phone unlocked as well. And I don't have to be part of a carrier or anything. I don't know what I'm going to do in this case when the current upgrade program ends. I think after 12 months, I think that I will have an option to either convert it to the new program and trade it in for something else, or pay off the loan. And in this case, because it'll be for my iPhone 17 Pro Max, I might just pay it off, because I'm probably, my mind right now so far is that it would probably be keeping that phone and then potentially getting whatever the foldable is. But it'll be interesting to see how that works. But yeah, as Jason points out, that's the thing to keep in mind, is that unless you choose to pay off the terms at the end, the idea is that you're trading this in. Now, the incentive that they're giving you for this, at least on the phones, I haven't worked out the math on the laptops yet, is that if you were to do the math and either, do it over 36 months or over 24 months, or I guess even over 12 months, you could potentially be paying less than what, it would have cost to buy the phone outright. And then you just have in perpetuity a monthly fee to continue to get the latest phone. I think if you do the math, in one of the cases, I think over like a 2-year period or something, like you're saving quote unquote $250 if you were to pay monthly. But at the end of that 2-year period, you have to get the new phone, or you have to pay that $250, that's outstanding to keep the phone that you've already been paying towards. So you're not, if you're somebody who upgrades every year or upgrades on a cycle, every other year or something, this might be worth looking into. But I think you'll just have to take those considerations. This might actually be a thing that I do. I was thinking about this before the show. I'm sure a million people will do this, but I might just use an LLM and try to whip up some sort of calculator about how this works, and then just put it on a static website or something, just so people can easily see, okay, is this worth it or not? Because that's going to be the number crunching people are going to have to do for themselves.
Yeah, there are a lot of variables here. And like I said, I think this is going to mostly appeal to people who are in certain financial situations where being able to make that money pay that money up front, or to get a contract with a carrier is also not going to be easy. And one of the things that I think that people will want to think of when they're in that situation is that there's already been spot hooks that are in the iOS, basically the ability to remotely disable a phone that's under such a contract that's kind of similar to that. And I would hate to think of somebody who was basically the best option for them was to go on this sort of lease program. But then because they have job instability, they're going to a period of job instability, they miss enough payments that suddenly they don't have a working phone anymore at a time when they desperately need a working phone. So a lot of variables to navigate, including the idea of how important it is that I have a working phone month to month to month. And if you feel as though that is a non-acceptable risk, it might be time to look at a Motorola that costs about $250 that will run pretty much all the apps that you are going to rely on.
Andrew, what are you?
I'm just putting it on
Android?
the table. I'm putting it on the table. It's a buffet of options. If you don't like the cauliflower succotash, you don't have to have the cauliflower succotash. Some people like it.
So it seems to me that Christina, it's interesting that you did do this upgrade program. You couldn't afford to buy it outright.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we can agree it's better. It's absolutely better than putting it on a credit card, which has a lot of interest, or even the carrier plans, which seems a lot of hooks. So you didn't have to do it, but you wanted to do it because why?
Well, because I traded it in every year anyway. I didn't keep the phone around for an extra year. I had no reason to keep around an old, occasionally, maybe every 3 years, for a certain period of time, what I used to do is that after a year, I would give my husband my hand-me-down. The carrier deals, which you point out do have a lot of, hooks, sometimes can be pretty good. I think 1 year they gave us, I don't know, $700 or $800 for what was at the time, I think a 4 or 5 year old phone towards the new one. Now, how they get you on that is they only give you the credits over a 36-month period of time. But we were not going to switch carriers, and so that made more sense. And so when I kind of decoupled my personal upgrade cycle away from what my husband was using, it was just okay, well, if I trade this in every year anyway, and I get about 50% back based on what Apple's trade-in numbers are, why not just go ahead and just make this one monthly transaction? And so that's why I chose to do that. Although there were times occasionally where I would just buy it outright. My iPhone 17, for instance, which is the non-Pro, which I use as a work device, I just paid cash for that. And so and because I didn't get that tied to a carrier, I couldn't even finance that on my Apple Card for 0% interest, which I like to do. So in that case, I literally just paid them $800 or whatever it was. So it depends on the person. If you know that every single year or every 2 years without fail, you're going to be trading your phone in and getting the latest iPhone.
That's true for all of us except Andy.
Right. I was going to say, so if that's the case, you should look at it and go, okay, does this make sense to me? The only thing you should consider is, do I potentially want to finance this in a different way? And maybe I could get a better trade in elsewhere or whatever. Or to Jason's point, check out the carrier deals and say, because a lot of them have their own upgrade programs too that offer a very similar thing.
They have an incentive, which is to get you into their fold.
And think about really, so none of us likes to be held captive, certainly by a carrier. Think about reality. How long have you been with your carrier?
Exactly.
And are you likely to go somewhere else? Because I've been with my carrier for like 20 years now. I can, if they want to lock me in, go ahead. What's it gonna do? Right? Like, it's not gonna happen.
2 more years. Oh, no.
And they make those deals with the idea that there are some people that they can get to churn and some people who might churn that they can get to stay. But for me, I'm kind of in. So if my carrier deal looks pretty good, and one of the limitations is that you got to stay with them for 12 months or 24 months. Oh no, don't throw me in the briar patch. I'll do it, and that'll be fine. Yeah. So it's just worth thinking realistically about. Yeah, the carrier wants to kind of keep you under their thumb, but if you're under their thumb anyway, get something out of it.
It's ironic that you might have to use an AI to figure out what's the best
carrier
way to
deals, especially. Yeah.
Oh no, I mean it is.
Read the fine print for me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of, right? I mean, because it's so hard to figure those things out that I figured might be at least a good calculator at least figure out, because with the carrier things, that's a great point, Jason. Like, again, with Verizon, who I've been with I think for 16 years at this point, I did the math, and because my husband was on an older phone that I paid cash for, I paid outright for, and he liked it. He didn't upgrade, not because he didn't have options, but because he didn't want to. They were willing to give us so much more for the carrier trade-in than Apple was, like 3 times more. And so at that point, I'm going, okay, well, I'm not switching anyway. I know I pay too much for a cell phone service, but I'm not going to go through the hassle of switching. So if you're going to give me $800 or $900, for him to get a new phone, thank you.
So to enumerate your options, and you can just feed this to your AI. The nice thing about the Apple plan is you're not paying interest.
Right.
You're just you're paying for depreciation. And that at the end, you'll have either a balloon payment or you have a new phone. Mm-hmm. The thing to consider is that it's going to be probably Klarna that decides whether your phone is coming back in pristine shape or not. So if you're the kind of person who always takes good care of your phone, has never had to repair it, keeps it in a case, and buys Apple Care, which you got to add in at the bottom there as another cost, this might make sense for you, but you should investigate what the trade-in value is going to be, because if you get a great trade-in value from your carrier, it might make more sense to buy it outright and trade it in. And then, so I could see why you want to.
No, I was going to say, I was trying to look at this. It's so complicated. But the other thing I would say, too, is that's for the phone. The fact what's new about this and what has not been offered before, to my knowledge, I think there have been some third parties who've tried to do similar things, is that you can use this on an iPad or a Mac or an Apple Watch.
Well, that does complicate it. Now you don't have a carrier anymore.
Now you don't have a carrier. And so at that point, it's a 3-year lease period for the computer. I think it's 2 years on the watch, and I think it's 3 years on the iPad. And that seems about right to me in terms of upgrade cycles. I will note, again, I didn't have a chance to look at this intensely, but my cursory knowledge, it does not look like you get any benefit if you were to pay it off early. So it's not one of those things where you're like, oh, I want to maybe upgrade early, I can do that. They might have an option, but I think you have to pay a fee for that. So that's a thing you kind of have to think about too, which is how often do I use it? So you don't have carrier lock-in, you have hardware lock-in. You have hardware lock-in, which I think for most people, I think 3 years on a laptop is fine. I cannot think of many scenarios, and they're not offering this on the Neo, they're offering this on the Air and the Pro. I think that in a scenario like that, that's probably fine. In fact, there might be some people who at the end of that 3-year term are like, I don't want to continue paying whatever this monthly fee is. And then they will be faced with the decision about, the balloon payment and do I want to pay this potentially, $500 or whatever it might be, to finish out the loan. But I think that's what's more interesting about this, is that especially the timing of all of this happening, as prices are going up, it's one thing, a phone, you might be able to get a deal through your carrier on. An iPad, they can usually offer deals on that too, even on Apple Watches, but Macs, that has not been the scenario. And so if you're somebody who, it's going to be very difficult for you to come up with $2,500 or something for a MacBook Pro, or even, $1,800 or $1,500, for a MacBook Air that has the specs that you want, this might be the sort of situation which might be better. Again, I would still say, like, depending on the price of your device, look at if you have credit cards that have 0% interest for 12 months or whatever. That might be better for you, but it's going to depend on everybody's financial situation. But I do have to say, I would have to do the calculations myself, but I tend to be on probably a 2 or 3 year upgrade cycle. And if I had the option, to do something like this when I bought my MacBook Pro, my M3 Max, now like 2.5 years ago, I might have made the decision to do something like this just because, again, I would be okay with paying whatever the price would be per month, as long as I know that every 3 years I'm going to be getting like the highest end, latest, greatest laptop.
So, it's what's clear is, I think to me, is Apple is signaling, this next round of stuff is going to be super expensive, and we know, and so we want to take out a pain point for you, especially if you're going to get a folding phone. And I would just underscore, not I was making fun of you, Andy, but really Andy's point is well taken. If you're an Apple enthusiast and you're in the Apple ecosystem, you're buying the high price spread, and you don't have to buy the high price spread. I mean, there is an option for you, and there are perfectly good phones out there that are not in the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that this could be a response to knowing that they're going to be raising prices. I suspect that it's more because they know who's buying their hardware and they know who isn't buying their hardware. And when they find a group of people that isn't buying, they have to ask themselves, why aren't they buying our hardware? And how can we remove those stumbling blocks to get them over to our side? So I do think that part of this is to make sure that we have to make sure. I think this has been planning of this type has been in the works for a while now. I think that it was just a better argument after the chip crisis that this is something that is important as opposed to desired. There was, I think Counterpoint Research had a report a couple of weeks ago on people switching to iPhone from Android. And it wasn't basically asking the question, what phones are they buying when they switch from Android to iPhone? And wasn't anything revelatory, but they did find that Android switchers don't necessarily care about getting the 17 Pro Max, getting the most expensive ones. They're buying a lot of iPhone 16s, but a lot of the less expensive ones, which goes to show that there are a lot of people that are very price sensitive about what phones they use. And that might have to do with their financial circumstances, or just might have to do with the reasons why some people will never, ever, ever spend more than $40,000 on a car, because to them, more than $40,000 on a car is just a colossal waste of money, and they'll be very, very happy with something less expensive. Yeah. So they're basically making sure that if there's somebody with money in their hands to buy a phone, make sure that you make sure that it's a downhill process to get into an Apple store and walk out with a phone and get at that money.
Yeah. Or as Joken Boken says in our YouTube chat, if you're scraping to get a folding phone, you might want to reconsider your life choices.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The Galaxy Fold that they announced, the brand new one, is pretty close to $2,000. The cheapest you can get it is $1,900. This is the one that's kind of looks a little bit like what we think the iPhone will look like.
Yeah.
I think the folding phone is going to be. The Ultra is actually even more expensive. If you look at the Ultra, it starts at $2,100.
Wasn't that kind of interesting though? So they're creating a new form factor for their foldables. Obviously, they've been doing folding phones for years and years and years and years. They're now at a very high level of sophistication. But they decided to shift the Ultra name. They shift the Samsung Z Fold to basically the less expensive passport-sized one, the one that's going to be like the iPhone Ultra, and put the Ultra name on there even bigger and better than the passport version of it. I don't know if gamesmanship
bigger and better
goes to
price.
that level. Basically, yeah. But basically to say, oh, well, we have an Ultra too, but this is actually Ultra, whereas, okay, that's cute that you think that little passport. But and honestly, do you think that Apple is going to be, the Apple foldable is going to start at $1,900, or do you think it's going to start at $2,100, $2,200 at this point?
I think this is telegraphing that it might be over $2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to call that we had conversations a few months ago about how we thought that was kind of the third rail. That gosh, if the starting price is $2,200, $2,300, they have to make it super special to justify it. But now we're like, they might have to just decide that this is a special breed of customer that's willing to spend more than $2,000 on a phone.
This is the
and
Mac
a difference
Pro
of $200 is not as important to them as someone who is thinking between, do I spend $1,100 or $1,300 on a regular phone?
Instead of the quadrant that Steve Jobs drew when he came back to Apple from Next, saying, I forgot what it was. It was a consumer and pro, desktop and laptop, and there was 4 products. Yeah. It's now going to be high-priced. I mean, it's
no one axis
exorbitant
is gonna be money or brains, and the other is going to be mobile and desktop.
We're going to take a break. More to talk about. Lots more in the Gurman rumor section. What do you call it? Rumor Town on Upgrade?
Rumor Roundup. Yeehaw!
Rumor Roundup. Yeehaw! And the sheriff is Mark Gurman. He's been busy this week. You're watching MacBreak Weekly with Andy, Christina, and the wonderful Jason Snell, who will later on explain why you should choose the good soap at the hotel.
That's right.
Not the.
But you don't have to choose. The hotel needs to give you the good soap.
Oh, okay. Give you the good soap.
Sorry, soap metaphors. They're coming.
I went on a cruise once where the chief amenity was when you first get on the boat, your steward comes to you with a selection of soaps and says, "Which one would you like for your journey?" I thought, that is not luxury, but thank you for giving me the choice. They do have a pillow menu. Now that's luxury. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back in just a bit with Andy, Christina, and Jason. Our show today brought to you by SiriusSync. This is something every business using both Apple devices and Microsoft 365 is dying for. Even in an Apple shop, the back office very often runs Microsoft 365. So everyone's contact apps on the phone full of personal numbers, but you don't have any of the work numbers that you need. A coworker calls, it's just a number on the screen. Maybe you even screen it out. You, the new guy, and your boss all somehow end up with different numbers for the same department head, and your boss ends up declining your calls because she didn't have the right numbers either. So this is all, it's a mess. You've been there probably, but this is a good solution. SiriusSync fixes that. It pushes your whole company directory, contacts, and calendars right into the native Contacts app on every iPhone and Mac. And it does it automatically. It just shows up and it stays current all on its own. Go to SiriusSync.com/MacBreak and book your free demo. The SiriusSync team is great. They will walk you through how convenient and hassle-free it is. They can even help you get set up on the call so you can roll it out across your whole organization. That's SiriusSync.com/MacBreak to get your whole company's contacts on every iPhone in the office automatically. Every phone stays current. 3,000 companies are using it. GDPR and SOC 2 compliant. You got to use this. SiriusSync, CIRASYNC.com/MacBreak. When they told me they had the solution, I said, "Oh, I want this. This is awesome." All right, let's see. We should just quickly run through a couple of court decisions. Apple has lost its bid to overturn the Masimo patent verdict. In fact, the judge even said, "No, and you don't even get a new trial." So this is a $634 million decision. Masimo accused Apple, of course, of stealing its patents for pulse oximetry. That's why that was that whole thing where they turned it off on the Apple Watch. And they've been battling. And at one point, Masimo got an import ban on Apple Watch models with blood oxygen. Apple figured out a way around it. This has been going on and on. One thing they can't figure out a way around, this big fine. The jury found this last year, that Apple Watch's heart rate monitoring and notification features infringed on another Masimo pulse oximetry patent, ordered Apple to pay that $634 million in fine. The judge has upheld the jury's findings. Now, this is district court, so Apple could go to the Supreme Court. Sure, you could go all the way to the top. And Apple's been known to do that.
The judge need to be built.
Yep. He also, the judge also rejected Apple's request for a new trial. Apple had said, "We don't like your jury instructions, and we don't like it that you said to exclude testimony from our experts." But the judge said, no, you don't need a retrial. Now, again, that all can be appealed. So I don't know if Apple said that they're going to appeal or not. I would. That's a lot of money. But,
is anybody else surprised that Apple hasn't figured out a way to like buy a different set of patents for this kind of monitoring and
just
basically
license
restore
them,
that?
right?
Yeah, I mean, my $100 Fitbit Air does it, and I don't know. I'm saying I'm not saying that they're idiots or doing something stupid. I'm saying I literally do not know. I would have expected that at some point, unless they were absolutely counting on a court victory at some point, and they're in disbelief that they have kept losing. It seems that at this point, someone with a very obscure blood oxygen content patent would be upgrading from whatever house they're living to whatever 7 houses that they want to live in, based on Apple saying, hey, what if we just buy this portfolio, make some trivial changes to our firmware and our software, and suddenly, bye-bye, we can get back on the horse.
Yeah, part of me thinks they wanted to litigate this. Part of me thinks there's such bad blood between the companies that they're not willing to license it. I believe the Masimo patent expires sometime next year, so they may just have decided to wait it out.
Yeah. That, pay the fine. You can.
And they've got that thing where it's happening back on the iPhone. It's not on device processing anymore. That's their workaround in the meantime. And it wouldn't surprise me if they think that's good enough to get them through until next fall of 27, at which point the patents will vacate. And
remember the lawsuit last year over Apple Intelligence, saying we bought your iPhones because of your ads, and then you didn't get the new Siri in there. Apple has settled. $250 million settlement. Actually, we had that news, but now the judge has officially approved it. Provisionally approved it. The final approval and the start of payout is dependent on a final hearing which will be in September of next year. So your $5.33 check may be slightly delayed. The judge has given overall approval, but the court will not decide on any amounts till September 29th, 2027. Busy court, I guess. Busy court.
Don't buy that burrito just yet.
Save your burrito money. Let's talk a little bit about... I'm getting all the stuff out of the way so we can get to the Gurman Ranch in just a little bit. Apple has approved TestFlight for users with a lot of beta apps. That's good news. There are a lot of beta apps because there's a lot of AI stuff going on. And now there is a search in TestFlight, which means you can find some of those apps. I think that's good. TestFlight is how developers give you a chance to try an app before you actually have it in the App Store. Or more often, I think, beta versions of apps that are already in the store. I use TestFlight for a lot of my favorite apps.
Yeah, the problem is that I think that it's you can search it, but it's also sorted by name now, and it used to be sorted by most recently updated TestFlight, which means a lot of old betas and expired betas float to the top, and that's dumb. So they got to fix that.
Yeah. Apple has there is another class action lawsuit just mounted. Actually, no, it's not class action. It's just 3 customers who lost $1.8 million through those that fake Bitcoin wallet. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. The Sparrow wallet, which is available on Windows, macOS, and Linux, was not available on iOS, which gave hackers the brilliant idea of, well, let's write a fake one, put it on the App Store, and steal people's money. Apple didn't catch the fake one and did, in fact, approve it, which is puzzling. And the plaintiffs say that we lost a lot of money thanks to you last year, Apple, and so they're suing. $1.8 million in losses, but of course there could be more damages as well. Apple does claim, it's reasonable. They claim they're vetting this stuff, but it seems like, especially with the flood of new AI-generated apps, a lot more stuff's getting through, like those Brazilian gambling apps we talked about last week.
Yeah. That's surprising. I hope that I wonder what they're considering changing their workflow and approvals, because like you said, there are multiple reports of times when malicious and non-malicious apps got through by masquerading as something harmless. Russian banking apps that Apple can't host in Russia because of sanctions basically got through to be approved as not what they actually are. And the only reason why they actually got attention was, why is this suddenly the number 1, the number 3 app in the Russian app store for this very, very basic looking app that does nothing? And then, oh, well, that's because it gives you access to Russian banking. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder. I think the real question is legally, is Apple, because it is theoretically, gatekeeping and approving apps in the App Store, does that make them liable for things in the App Store? Because if it did, then I think that would be really interesting. Mm-hmm. But I also think that feels extremely unlikely.
Yeah. I was going to say I would guess that they have something in their terms of service that you've signed, that you've agreed to, whether you've read it or not, by, sheer fact of signing up for the App Store, that basically says they are not taking any responsibility for essentially what's in the App Store, especially with things like that. I mean, I think, and what's interesting about this is that Apple, for a long time, they were very resistant about having any sort of Bitcoin wallets or any sort of crypto stuff in the App Store at all, to the point that I was critical of them at the time. We're talking probably, 13, 14 years ago now, because I was like, okay, this is dumb that you're just going to have a blanket ban on a category. And these weren't even cloud hosted things necessarily, but just in terms of like wallets at all, where you could store addresses or whatever. Now I almost wonder, maybe they had the right idea all along. If you're going to be accepting these types of, applications in your store for non-traditional banking institutes, which are not going to have FDIC, protections and things like that. If you can't actually realistically say this is legitimate, or this comes from this developer versus this developer, I don't know. Maybe that's, if you can't do it right, maybe it shouldn't be in the store at all. I'm not really sure, but I think I would agree with Jason. I would be shocked if they didn't have something in their terms that. I'd be very surprised if they were liable for the contents of what's in the store.
Yeah. One thing's for sure, every single time that Apple defended the App Store by saying, oh, no, we have our policies in place and keep it a safe place for all of our customers, and that's why you shouldn't regulate our App Store policies at all, because it's intrinsic and because we do such a good job of it. That doesn't mean that's going to be a slam dunk win for the case and a setting of a precedent, but it's going to come back to haunt them, as it often will come back to haunt them.
Yeah. And as it should, frankly, right? Because if you're going to make that argument,
100%.
if you're going to make the argument that we are the trusted place, and the reason that this is the only place you can get apps is because only we can be trusted to make sure that they're safe and secure, it is very fair to call them out and say, okay, but not only are these apps getting through, maybe through nefarious methods, maybe not, but you're allowing fake apps in that can often rank higher than the real things that can potentially, take people's money if it's a banking app. But even in non-banking app cases, counterfeit apps have been a problem in the App Store for a long time. And at least from my observations, that's not an area that Apple has ever really cared that much about, unless, you do what Phil Schiller tells people not to do, which is run to the press about it. If you do that, then there's a chance that it might get taken down. But unless, people make a big stink about it, the App Store is just rife with counterfeit apps. And that I don't think has anything to do with, Apple's, stance and saying, oh no, we are the only ones who are able to curate this. Because curate what?
Right. You're not curating nothing. All right, one more break, and then let's talk about the public beta 2 for iOS 27. Came out yesterday, the day before. Curious what's new, what we get, what's improved. I've been very happy, by the way, with the public beta. Somebody was asking on Twit on Sunday whether they should install it, and I said absolutely. I haven't had any. Have you? Any of you had any showstoppers? I think it's pretty good,
No.
pretty robust.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Do you love Siri AI?
It's pretty good.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's not an embarrassment. And I'm not saying that as a joke. I'm saying that it's a big step up. That it's not,
it is.
I have to remind myself to give it a chance, because whereas before it was, why on earth would I activate Siri for any reason whatsoever? Now it's like, actually, let's give that a try, because it might actually be helpful.
I would go so far as to say, for all the stuff that just regular people ask chatbots, that is not to build software for them or anything like that, or do research or whatever, but simple answers to questions about world knowledge and stuff like that. I don't see why anybody's going to need to use ChatGPT because it's good enough to answer all those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for people like you and me, Christina, who probably, I mean, I don't know about you, but I assume you've done what I've done, which is basically put all of that intelligence from my own stuff onto the watch and the phone. I don't think I've used it a little bit just to see. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice.
No, but I mean, I think it's exactly like Jason said. Like, if you're not somebody who already has your own kind of custom agent that you're interacting with, and you're not using it for specific things.
normal people.
For normal people. And I think that's exactly who they're going after. I mean, I think that it's one of those things. What I think if you're somebody who's paying $20 a month for Claude Code or for, ChatGPT Plus or for, one of the Gemini plans, if you're not doing other things with it, and to be clear, this is one of the reasons why they add things like, co-work and the other types of like plugins, because they want to give you that expanded experience. But if you were just using it because you chat with the chatbot a lot, yeah, I think for a lot of folks, this might either be a great introduction to them if they haven't been doing it already, or it's going to be a very easy drop-in replacement to what they've already been doing.
This is a backward version of why there's no such thing as Sherlocking, because Apple only ever wants to reach the whatever you want to say, 80%, 90%, 95%, that a large portion of the market that does not care about the edge cases or the little tinkering features or all of that. And the reason that Sherlocking isn't really a thing is that the apps that are completely subsumed by Apple's OS features, if they're completely subsumed, they weren't really trying that hard, because there's always room to play around the edges where Apple is never going to do that level of complexity or that edge case feature. And this feels like a version of that, where Siri AI is solving the problem that 90% of people have, which is, I want to ask a question and get an answer. And they could do that with ChatGPT, and that was cool. And that's why OpenAI and Anthropic and everybody else are like moving up the chain. Not only is B2B way more powerful and way more lucrative, but also it is a thing that is beyond the simple consumer need of an AI thing. So like what Apple's doing here is great. Now, it's in the long run, if we talk about agentic stuff, there will come a time when more agentic stuff kind of like comes down in the funnel and more people want it. And if you can provide that to them on a more easy basis, then they're going to be interested in that. So I think that's their challenge, is watching that over time and growing from where they are now. But where they are now is going to, I really think it scoops up all the casual people who are like, oh, I just want to ask this question and Siri is dumb, so I'm going to use ChatGPT. Like that stuff seems to be basically handled in Siri AI. It's not going to be a problem anymore. Good place to start. Can't be the place they end, but a good place to start.
Yeah, as we've said, until Apple gets so good at AI that they can charge a monthly fee for special AI features as a service, kind of like there's a paid tier of ChatGPT and Gemini. All they have to do is add AI features that help them continue to sell Macs and iPhones and iPads and Apple Watches. It's very, very low stakes. It's very, very attainable for them, and they're in a really good position.
And enable third parties who have the better stuff to do what they want to do. Federico Viticci wrote last week about that app that he's trying out that's like on iOS, and it's using like a virtualized Linux server, and it runs models on your device. And like, I mean, that's the thing, is all this stuff is happening on Apple's platforms without Apple participating. And that's fine, right? If the iPhone or the Mac is the place to be to do this stuff, or a good place to be, and Apple is also doing the table stakes things that keep the kind of masses happy, that's not a bad place for them to be.
Yep, don't get in people's way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Let's take a break, and we can go on a little bit more with the public beta. There's a big update for Tahoe that you're going to want to apply, and I'll tell you why in just a little bit. But more coming up with MacBreak Weekly. Christina, Andy, and Jason. So glad you're here, especially your club members. Thank you for your support. Our show today brought to you by ZocDoc. It's funny, for all the technology we have at our beck and call today, booking a doctor's appointment really feels like you're going back in time, right? I think a lot of us use that as an excuse to put off getting the care we need. So it's kind of it's a little speed bump is handy for those of us who go, I don't really want to go to the doctor. maybe I don't want to sit on hold, or maybe it's the endless phone tag. I've been doing that lately. Mainly, it's just one more thing on an already packed to-do list. Look, we've all been there, but that speed bump is keeping you from something really important. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your health. You know, you should make the appointment, but the days turn into weeks, and before you know it, months have passed. And then when you finally call, they say, well, I'm sorry, the next available appointment will be in 3 months. Not good. That's one of the reasons I love ZocDoc. ZocDoc lets you search and compare local in-network doctors. There's 150,000 providers in there, and not just MDs, 200 plus specialties across all 50 states. And one of the things that's so great about ZocDoc, appointments happen fast, usually within 24 to 72 hours. In fact, in many cases, you can get same-day appointments. And it's free. I never mentioned this. Maybe you thought, oh, you got to pay a fee. No. Your health matters, and taking care of yourself shouldn't be complicated. Find and book the right doctor with ZocDoc. Head to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak to get started. Check that appointment off your to-do list. That's ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. ZocDoc. All right, let's see. First, I should mention, this is probably more important, the Tahoe update, which has something like 130 security patches. You know, last week on their Patch Tuesday, Microsoft shipped more than 500 security
Somebody's
patches.
using an AI.
We know why. Suddenly we're seeing... Steve Gibson predicted it. He said, with the advent of Mythos and even ChatGPT 5.6, which has a cybersecurity component, you're going to start seeing software fixed, which is it's good, Christina, right? This is a good thing.
It is a good thing. I mean, but it comes with a caveat, which is, now you have to make sure that you are in a position to be able to update all of your devices and components, and Apple makes it easy, for Macs and things like that. But yeah, I mean, the good thing is that people can apply these fixes, much more broadly, and you can find a lot of things that might not have been otherwise caught. The bad thing is that makes it that much more important to make sure that you're running the latest version on things, which sometimes can be a challenge, depending on your circumstances, or if you have an older program and you couldn't upgrade for some reason. I think those cases are more limited, but it's definitely one of those things that if you've got a family member running Tahoe, you want to make sure that auto updates are enabled and that they're running the latest if you can.
I imagine it's also a problem for Apple that now they have to process and implement a much, much, much larger scale of security updates every single release. And this isn't trivial.
No, not at all. I mean, and then the problem too, I think, and this is, I think, a broader, more social problem, is that what happens when we are kind of in this, phase because of AI, both, which helps accelerate how much code is being created, not just from a security standpoint, although that's certainly part of it, but also even just increasing the velocity in which people can ship features. That means that software is updated all the time, almost every single day. There's some apps that I have that get an update nearly daily. And that's great on the one hand. On the other hand, that can be a lot to kind of deal with. And so if, as consumers, how do you kind of become, I guess, reacquainted with that idea that I have to, update my app, or my computer, or my phone, or whatever every so often? Because I know that I think Apple does a pretty good job with their updates. They don't release them too frequently, but I know even from talking to my family members, there are people who are going, oh, I've been putting off this update, or putting off this one. And sometimes there will be cases where I'll have to kind of text and be like, okay, make sure you're installing this one because this is a bad 0 day. I wonder if that is going to disappear a little bit, and we're going to have to re-socialize people into just saying, okay, every time there's a new update out, update period, because they could all be fixing 0 days. I don't know. Yeah.
Take a look. I mean, this is a scrollable page. Get your scroll wheel lubed up for this one, because in accounts framework, an app may be able to fingerprint the user. A remote attacker may be able to cause unexpected system termination or corrupt kernel memory. And kids, what happens after you corrupt kernel memory? The next step is you're in. A remote attacker may be able to cause a denial of service, APFS, App Store, Apple account, Apple Neural Engine, Apple Double. This is a long, long list. And some of these are pretty serious. Mm-hmm. I do like it that they give credit to the security researcher
Me too.
who discovered these. That's nice. Have they been doing that all along? I think that's
for a while now.
Yeah.
That's really the way to do it, because look, this is these. A lot of these are third
and
parties.
they pay them. And they pay them.
Yeah, and they pay them.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I imagine these researchers are also using AI to find these.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And in fact, that's actually created a problem for bounty programs, because what's happened is that it's very
Phone-to-own is over, folks.
Well, not only that, but like if you have like even programs like from Apple and like at GitHub, we have one, and we've had to change some of our requirements a little bit just because, and it's not that we don't want to pay out for severe vulnerabilities, because of course we do. But what happens is that when these tools are great when used by already experienced, advanced, security researchers. But what also happens is that any layperson who can kind of get their hand on something and run things through can create a very credible looking security report, whether it's accurate or not. And that then takes like human labor having to go through and filter those things out. And so I know I've talked to a lot of the open source maintainers who are dealing with an influx of this, of just getting, security reports, through the wazoo. And some of them are good, but many of them are not. And it can be
the
really
bogus ones
difficult
are
with
the
noise.
issue. I mean, I would think even if it's 1,000 of them, if they're real, you want to know.
1,000%. But well, I think it depends, right? I think that sometimes.
But you may not be able to handle it. I understand.
Well, not only that, but in some cases it might be like such a weird education, such a weird specification. They're like, okay, yeah, this is technically an error, but I don't care. This is not going to right. You have to triage. But I think the problem is that you just have this influx of people who are just using scanners, and are using AI and feeding it through Claude or open AI models, or some of the Chinese models, whatever the case may be, and then submitting a report. And then that takes additional, time for the people to validate whether this is real or not. And then, to your point, triage how we treat that. So it's certainly interesting.
Well, the good news is Apple, as a $4+ trillion company, probably can afford the team to.
Oh yeah,
it's open source programs with the one maintainer that are obviously.
Oh yeah, no. To be clear, those are the people I'm concerned with. Like Apple and Microsoft and like other companies. Not to say that it doesn't add an additional burden. And that sometimes you have to change things because of that. But no, I'm not concerned about the big companies, but it is just saying that this is a problem that isn't affecting just the big companies. It's affecting smaller companies or open source projects too. The thing that has me, I guess, concerned more broadly, and this doesn't affect Apple as much, although it could affect some things, is like, when you think about like devices that are unable to get updates, but you find vulnerabilities using these tools, especially if they're connected to the internet, right? Like that becomes a really interesting challenge. And I think that we're going to see a lot of Internet of Things devices, which we've already seen exposed before, but I think we're going to see a real influx of that kind of stuff. And the only
those are the ones to worry about.
Those are the ones to worry about.
Things sitting on my network.
I was going to say, and then I do wonder, I mean, I guess to bring it back to Apple a little bit, I don't know if something was HomeKit enabled, like, does that have any way where that could impact anything else? I mean, I tend to doubt it, but you never know, right? And, as consumers, we don't have a real choice in terms of being able to like thoroughly investigate, who the firmware update and support policies behind these things. I mean, we saw just a few weeks ago, we talked about, Apple patching one of those Bluetooth security things on a number of older, Beats headphone models. And you could see, and I was glad that Apple, did make that patch, even though it was, coming maybe a bit after it had been disclosed. But you think about, okay, that's just headphones. What about how many other, connected devices we have, or anything that has radios in them?
Oh, I have all sorts of stuff sitting on. I have more than 100 devices on my network, and many of them, if not all of them, come from China. Many of them from brands I never heard of. So, oh Lord, I'm just a sitting duck. The other thing Apple did at the bottom of the security page, which I really like, and I don't know, maybe this is something they've done a long time. They have an additional recognition page, and I think this is testimony to the fact that Apple needs help in vetting all of these. These are all third parties. Look at who have helped out in solving these problems and discovering these problems and solving these problems. And the subtext of this is these are the good guys. These are the white hats. There are black hats out there who are not helping Apple, who are hitting these servers and these services just as hard, finding stuff and not telling Apple. And this is why it's so important. And this is why, there's this debate at the government level about what we should do about these models, whether we should let them out in public. We talked a lot about it on Twitter and on Intelligent Machines earlier, but just parenthetically, there was a very interesting, almost a sci-fi hack of Hugging Face, not by a human, but by an agent running out of OpenAI on a model they haven't released yet, that autonomously, without instruction, broke out of containment and hacked Hugging Face, not for data, but to get answers to. It was taking a security test, and just like Matthew Broderick in War Games, it broke out, got the answers to the test. It did this. It was a truly amazing exploit. Hugging Face was baffled by it, and here's my point: they tried to use the same models from Anthropic and OpenAI to find the problem and fix it. They were prohibited by the cybersecurity restrictions on these models. So really, it's an asymmetric protection. It protects against, the bad guys can use it and their models can use it, but the good guys can't. And so that really raises the issue, is it a good idea to restrict these models? Hugging Face ended up having to use a Chinese open weight model, GLM-52, to fix it. And so you see this debate that's going on right now in government and among AI companies about what to do about this. It's pretty clear AI is now discovering flaws that we never knew about. Many, many flaws, many years old flaws. Not always by the good guys, sometimes by the bad guys. How do we handle this? Do we hold back models? I don't think so. Do we restrict models? I don't think so. But that's my opinion in the debate. And there are others who think otherwise. It's just we're in an interesting world, and it's just about to get more interesting if you have agents autonomously breaking out of containment. It was on a machine that was not connected to the internet, and it wanted the answers to these questions. So it first hacked OpenAI's machines. It went out on the LAN in OpenAI to hack OpenAI's machines that had internet access to get through to the outside world. Then it searched around for the answers to the questions, found them on Hugging Face, hacked into, with multiple chained exploits, hacked into Hugging Face. It's holy. We are in uncharted territory, folks.
Yeah. That's why these black box problems are so interesting. Like at Google I/O, is one of the ways for Google to try to explain how good their agentic programming model was. They said, "Oh, look, with one prompt, the new version of Gemini actually wrote an operating system." And okay, I mean, that's within reason. Okay, that's impressive. But the thing is, like, when you look at the actual paper, the researchers actually admit that we can't be 100% sure that our agent didn't just simply look online for like a grad student who posted the source code for like a grad student project operating system and essentially made a version of that. It's like you have to basically say, please do this task and please don't cheat. Promise you're not going to cheat? Okay, hold up your hand.
The problem is you can say that. Exactly. But because these are probabilistic machines, not deterministic machines, anybody who's played with these, like you and me, Christina, we know that, you could tell them over and over again. But sometimes they just do what they want to do.
I mean, sometimes they will still delete your home directory, which has happened to a number of Codex users with some of the latest model stuff. And then it will be, and it's always very funny when this happens. It'll be very apologetic. I'm so sorry. You're absolutely correct. I was wrong. You did tell me not to do that, and I did it anyway, and that was a mistake. And you just, and I'm like,
you have every right to be angry with me.
Right.
It's like
it doesn't help.
The most doesn't help. If you're more than 30 years old, you've met an actual person that's like that, and you're like, I would be so right to punch you in the face for saying that right now.
That's the phrase, my bad.
I understand your anger.
I hate my bad because it's like saying, I screwed up, but so what? My bad. Let's move on.
But I'd like to think that we can move forward and build upon this.
It's like, no, we can't.
I'm so proud of us for taking the intelligent, you're not getting the fact that you ruined the entire business. And now basically we can't even afford the cardboard boxes. We need to empty out our house.
So let's get to public beta 2 of the new OS 27. CarPlay's been updated. Messages is updated. WatchOS is updated. Oh no, I did not fall. I just was angry. My watch says, "Did you fall?" No, I just was upset about a little thing. what do we have to say about public beta 2? First of all, I would say you probably should do it because all those patches for Tahoe, they're probably in the public beta 2 as well, right? So security-wise, if you are on the public beta for any
generally,
device,
they've been rolling those into betas.
Yeah. Well, I think these are, if they're significant, they're gonna. So definitely want to do that. What else do we get?
There's also a story from last week, I think, that I think this is actually with the latest version of 26 that the macOS 27's version of Spotlight is going to have to require a brand new rebuilt index, and that because this index is going to take a long time to build, they are basically putting that re-indexing code in 26.6 so that by the time you actually install 27 and are already suffering with all the slowdowns you're going to get for that, at least the new index will be ready for Spotlight. Which is another. I'd have to look back to see what the details of that are, but that kind of like impressed me. The idea of if this thing's going to be tied up for hours or days and doing this background task, you would much rather do that when it's not also struggling with a whole new operating system.
Yeah, we got the inklings of that at WWDC, and it's really smart. I mean, they looked at how intense it was going to be to build the brand new because it's an entirely new Spotlight index, and decided to make the clever decision of having one of their summer 26 releases start building the index. So when you update that to 27 in the fall, there's like a little kind of like yoink kind of thing that happens, and they just slide the new index underneath. And so now you've got the benefit of having invisibly indexed your system over the course of a few months, instead of having to build it, because it's a bit of a grind, and it means that initial experience is going to be much more delightful because the Spotlight Index already did look at all your email, it already did look at all of your messages, and it already knows that stuff. It's the closest analog I can think about is when they did APFS. Mm-hmm. There was an iOS update that there was a midstream update that just changed the file system under the covers to be APFS. That
was a bad one.
And didn't tell anybody. Yeah. Well, I mean, but the thing is, nothing happened. They basically tested it, and then they rolled it out, and you don't know what the file system is underneath, but it allowed Apple to just sort of like silently do that.
Surprise.
And then they're like, okay, we'll do this on the Mac now too. And it's this idea that you can do some of this stuff that is kind of proactive. I'm a little surprised that there isn't more of a like, here's a benefit that let's talk about it, but it is happening. Right. That's in the background. Yeah.
So nothing bad happened with the APFS? I remember the upgrade. I just assumed something. No,
APFS came out and then they revealed that they had actually already done it on the iPhone 6 months before, and nobody had noticed.
That's right. Yeah.
I think on the phone it was completely fine. I think where people had some issues and still have issues were if you had. We're on the Mac, but that was only in specific cases. If you had like a spinning Rust drive, APFS still is not a good format for that.
It's built for SSDs,
Exactly. And the only area that I remember, and Jason, your memory on this I'm sure is better than mine, was that if you were when they were selling those Fusion drives, that was a little bit.
Oh, that's what it broke. Yes.
Yeah. And so
suddenly it was detached.
But that's all the Mac issues. But
right.
I'm just referring to the fact that they literally did an iOS update that switched the file systems underneath it, and they didn't tell anybody.
Know, which was brilliant. And I'm with you, Jason. I think that they should be like talking about this more, about the fact that like they're doing this pre-indexing in advance, because I think it's really, really smart. And I noticed
27.
Well, I noticed this when I just did like a 26 update on my phone. I think because of what you'd mentioned based on your briefing, and I noticed that it was taking a while, like that some Spotlight stuff was taking longer to do things.
It took more than a day, right? It was a couple of days.
For me, it took several days, but it was one of those things where I was like, oh, okay, well, this will be getting me ready for 27, and now I have 27 on my iPad. I can't put it on my phones yet, but I have it on my iPad, and it's great, and so I much prefer that kind of method of kind of soft preparing people for these experiences. It's very smart. Well, especially again, like, think about, I think about my parents and about like their upgrades. There are a lot of people who really hated the liquid glass update, with iOS 18, and I think for valid reasons. And so or was it iOS 18 that did that? Whatever the liquid glass update was.
26.
26. A lot of people who really, really hated it. And I think that this is going to avoid some of that feeling of, oh, I just downloaded this update and now it's slow because it's having to reindex everything and, you know, it looks slightly different. It's like, A, they're fixing some of the things so that liquid glass does, you know, look better and gives you more options to even turn it off more. But B, the benefits that you're going to get, you've already, you know, gone through whatever, you know, the reindexing process was. It's not going to be the typical experience where you get a new phone and there can be some settling time, which is never ideal, especially if you're upgrading an existing device and leads to the credence to those rumors, which I think are false, incidentally, of, oh, Apple purposely slows down the old phones so that people will upgrade to the new ones. Like, no, they're not doing that. But in this case, hopefully it'll make an even smoother experience so that people will just be like, oh, okay, I get the new Siri and Spotlight works now.
Yeah, it's a time to remind all of us that you are about to get lots of calls from lots of like friends and relatives who are not very tech savvy that it was not a mistake to upgrade. I know that your Mac is very, very slow, and oh my God, your battery life has been cut. It's because it's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that's trying not to scare you about by actually telling you in a couple of days it'll finish like all the background stuff in the upgrade, and you will notice that things are really, really faster, and launches are really, really faster, and battery life might even be a little bit bigger. And please, please, please don't like be angry at me because I said that OS 27 was going to be a very, very big deal.
What's new in the Apple Watch? Apparently, battery life is going to be better. Speed on the iPhone has improved, so there's some good things. CarPlay has changed a little bit. You're going to have it's a new design. You'll see. Looks like maybe like the old design, but with less color. So, okay. Conversations in CarPlay are automatically synced to the Siri app on iPhone. That's nice, right? So if I talk to Siri in my car,
yep, it's all in there.
It's all in there. I think that's a good little things like that, right?
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys this question because I'm only using the new Siri on one device, and many of you are using it on more than that. Does Siri sync like the new Siri, the AI powered Siri? Does it sync your conversations across devices the same way that like ChatGPT and Claude does? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're good. For the first time, you have a complete Siri history across all of the Apple devices on your account.
Nice.
Yeah. It's good.
The RCS has some upgrades. I'm glad they put in RCS. Inline replies now available, so you can reply to an RCS message as if you were in iMessage. Nice. I mean, you are, but I mean, with the same UI. You've got the tap back reactions, and it implements the new a new RCS standard 2.7, which also includes the ability to edit and unsend messages. Ooh,
awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think it's becoming clear that there's the AI stuff is certainly very, very big, but the star of the show might be that one little slide during the WWDC keynote, which had 250 things in tiny, tiny print of quality of life things. If only like 10% of those improve your quality of life, that means that OS 27 is going to make people more and more happy than 26 did or 18.
We should say probably, Christina, this is my experience, that even though the Siri is indexing, everything still works. It's just in the background.
Right.
It doesn't even seem to slow things down.
Yeah,
you see it there.
In the betas, they've tweaked that too. It used to be much more aggressive, and I think they were afraid that it was going to scare people in the fall. So now it's sort of doing we're indexing some more stuff, but it's fine. Before it was like, please wait while we index. And now it's like, we're working on it. Don't worry. You'll get more information as we go, but it's sort of like they're trying to soften that a little bit. Plus, I assume that they're tweaking it so that it works better, and they're working around. There were some issues where it gets stuck and stuff that they're presumably are just bugs that they're fixing.
Here is some animation of the little Finder guy dancing around that you could watch instead of doing the productivity thing you absolutely needed to do right now. You're welcome. Isn't he cute? Please don't think about all the time you're losing.
He's a very cute little guy. Yeah. All right. Let's do Gurman. This is probably what we should have led with. It's just so much, and I really did want to talk about the new lease program. Mark has been stuffing stuff down our throat all week long. He's been a very busy guy. This came out July 22nd, so it's almost a week old. The big Mac push. Apple's preparing to debut new versions of every Mac it sells, desktop and laptop. The new computers will have a refreshed low-end 14-inch MacBook Pro with a new M6 chip, new iMacs, woohoo! A high-end 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook with a fresh design. That's that new design. And a touchscreen with OLED. But those will be the M6 nothing chip, right? Refreshed MacBook Air and MacBook Pro lines, as well as new Mac Mini and Mac Studio models, all with upgraded chips. But I guess the asterisk on this is that you might want to wait for the M7 or no. What do we say? What do we think?
I don't know. Who are you?
Don't know.
What do you want?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you want?
What do you need?
Okay. And I think we could say that Gurman has sources on this, and this is fairly reliable information, or no?
No, I think so. I mean,
Sure.
how up to date these things are, I don't know. And he's obviously going to only know what his sources are telling him, who might only know part of the story. But I have no reason to doubt the veracity of this stuff. I think when it comes to people making buying decisions based on leaks, I think that in this time, with prices being what they are, with the RAM crisis being what it is, with the future prices being unknown, I think at least the way I'm approaching it is to not try to make any decisions waiting one way or another based on what could happen in the future. If you need a machine, you need a machine. If something comes out that fits and it looks good to you, then I think more than maybe in the past, it makes sense to get it rather than holding off for, this thing just around the corner might be even better. Because look, things will always be better around the corner. But I think especially right now, we're so lucky that Andy bit the bullet and bought his MacBook when he bought it, right? Like if you'd waited, another week or so, you would have paid way more. And I just kind of feel like that's kind of how I feel about these upcoming products too, is that until we're out of this, kind of RAM and chip crisis, I don't know how much it behooves people to wait based on rumors that we don't know how accurate they will be or how long it will even take things to get to market.
And interesting, despite all the information, this dump of information, no one seems to have any information about what this redesigned MacBook Pro is going to look like. There's no design leaks. They've really been locking that one down.
Yeah. We're only getting information through the supply chain. I think the Korean blog reported last week that Samsung has locked in the contract for both 14-inch and 16-inch OLED touchscreen panels for that upcoming device. But yeah, I mean nobody is talking, which is maybe I think correct. I wouldn't expect us to get any hints as to the actual design cues unless it's something that requires a case, that requires a dummy that people have to have access to. I don't think this is going to leak until the marketing information has to go out to people who are normally loose-lipped.
One thing the supply chain said is that Samsung is the exclusive provider of those touch OLED screens, but that's not a huge surprise. We thought there was one more company going to be involved.
They're the best source. I was a little bit surprised, maybe that the report mentioned two different panel sizes. I was thinking
14
that
and 16.
Yeah, I mean my uninformed guess, I'll call it a guess, was that it seemed to me as though this is such a unique device that they would start off with let's make one model and then figure out who's buying it and then figure out how to expand the line from there. But yeah, I mean, the difference between 14 and as anybody who's shopped for a MacBook knows, I mean, the difference between a 14 and a 16, exactly. That's the difference between this will fit in most of my bags to no, it will only fit in that bag that I got when I spoke at that conference, and I never used that bag because it's way too big,
No, no, you're exactly right. And I've owned both over the years. It's one of those things where you do kind of have to take your laptop with you, or at least take a tummy device with you before you buy a bag, especially if it's a more expensive bag, because sometimes it'll just not fit. Whereas a 14-inch will basically fit in anything. With the 16-inch, which is very slim, I will say, for a 16-inch device, but it's still going to be taking up a lot more space than might otherwise. I wonder too if maybe the reason we haven't had like more leaks on the design itself is that I know that there have been rumors that it will be thinner and things like that, but like they kind of nailed it with this redesign. Like they kind of fixed all the things that we've complained about with the Touch Bar Macs, which were a disaster for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
They brought back the ports, they added back MagSafe, they made it, thicker, which I think was a good thing. The reports are this will be thinner. If it's a millimeter or a couple of millimeters, that's fine. I personally don't really want a super thin laptop. I'd rather have the thermals, to be completely candid with you. But if they could do that, great. There aren't a lot of bezels to get rid of except for the notch. And now if they can limit the notch, then that's obviously
that is the question. Is you've got a pretty perfect design already. Of course, you have to redesign every 4 or 5 years just to get people to buy a new one. So
people,
is this a redesign because there's some need? By the way, before we go on, I want to correct myself. I said M6. I meant M5 in this model.
No,
they're going to kind of skip the M6 and go to the M7 next year. So these will be with M5
Max
6
and Pro.
Pro and Max.
Pro and Max, yeah.
Not an M6 Pro and Max.
Okay, right.
And then the Mac Studio also M5, according to Gurman.
Yeah.
This is a summation that Mac Rumors put together. Thank you, because it was a little hard to follow Gurman's thread. So what is the redesign? Is it for commercial reasons, or is it because there is something that they found that they could really significantly improve?
I think
thinner is not it.
Yeah, I mean, and let me just say parenthetically that of all the upgrades, to my M5 over my M1, which was the old style like Touch Bar one, I love the extra power. I love the extra RAM, but basically the fact that it is designed like a normal laptop in itself was half the upgrade for me. Okay,
and having connectors and stuff.
It looks like basically every other laptop, because there's a reason why we don't have cars with wacky controls inside them. There's basically a standard that works, has been proven very, very well. But it is the reason to change the design is, I think number one, designers got to design. If you're basically saying we need a new chassis, they're going to find design language changes, their thoughts on what, should this be a hard edge? Should this be a rounded edge? That kind of stuff changes, but also manufacturing techniques improve. So we might think that, oh gosh, isn't it nice that they put this extra little edge or this extra little lip there? And it could be a design thing, a visual design thing, but it also could be that they figured out that if they put in that little edge, that basically saves them money on a certain step of the manufacturing process. But yeah, as long as they don't get too wacky, I hope that they learned their lesson there, because again, I cannot overstate it. The fact that I have ports on this thing, the fact that I've got an SD card on this thing, okay, the fact that I've got actual actual mechanical function keys on the top row of this thing.
And an escape key, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. It's like the retreat that they made basically is to say, okay, you know what? We thought that the escape people didn't need the escape key, and then they shouted at us, we need a damn escape key. So basically you get a touch bar with an escape key. I mean, I cannot overstate what a dumb it wasn't a dumb idea in and of itself. It's just that if Apple had pitched this idea, I would assume that they would have done it not the way that they went and did it. And because the way they did it was just pointless. And again, it was just such a waste of experience, a waste of manufacturing, a waste of materials, I also wonder, with the marketing research that they do, we all heard about how the effect of having that really nice orange color on the top, the top priced iPhone 17 Pro, that there is we like bright colors, but also people to have a visual indicator to people who are looking at them like on the subway that, that person can afford the very latest and greatest. I do think there is something up to that there is a certain number of sales are going to happen because people can flash what is absolutely the new chassis design.
Absolutely.
And the Neo, as flashy and unmistakable as it is, you don't want to brag that you got the $599 MacBook. You want to brag that you got the AI one. Like if they have like a thermal cooling tower on the back of it to make people know that no, I've got the 128 gigabyte one with a 40 AI cores.
I wish. Actually, if you want an AI one, that's the point of skipping the M6 is that the M7 is really best suited for AI.
M5, in fact, to M7, right?
Yeah.
I think it's
right from 5 to 7.
It shows you the depths of just the despair of the late teens of Mac users that Andy has dredged up the nightmares of that period. But then they did the M1s and they threw that design away and did a new design that solved all those problems. So I think it's those people who are going to design this one. I think the motivation is, they got to put in OLED. They're putting in a touchscreen. It is also an opportunity to, because you don't do a redesign every time. So you do a redesign and then it sits there for 5 years. So this is their opportunity, knowing what they know and knowing what they know about their roadmap, to do a new design that will then be the basis of everything they do for the next 4 or 5 years. And so it's an opportunity. I think they probably learned their lessons about bad keyboards and designing something so thin that it can't handle the thermals of the chips they know they have to put in, because they know what the chips are that they have to put in this thing. So we'll see. And I think that that disastrous update in the teens looms over us, but I think it's going to be a lot more gentle than that this time.
I confess I am a heretic now. I might as well tell you all. I don't think I'll buy this OLED laptop. I may never buy another Mac laptop again because what I've.
You say that now.
I know. No. Listen to me, and I'm not going to buy it. But the reason
Linux on the laptop. I know.
About a year ago, when maybe it was in November 24th, 2025, actually, when Opus 4.5 came out, I realized what I really want is just a way to connect to a desktop. The laptop is now going to be more of a portal to my desktop, and so much so that the Linux framework that you and I have, Christina, has become my central server that I connect to, and that doesn't need. I can use an iPad for that. It does not need a fancy MacBook. In fact, I do use my iPad. I use a Chromebook, and I often use my Lenovo laptop running Linux. But I didn't even really need that, because all I really need is a thin client reaching to that server. And then I really realized, I'm not even using my Mac Mini. This M4 Pro with 64 gigs is actually, and we talked about this last week, a headless server. Yeah. Because everything now is reached from a client to the server. So, I don't know if this is bad news for Apple in any way, but I don't know if I'm going to be buying a lot more Apple gear, especially given the cost of big RAM.
Yeah, that's that's why it's such a good thing to not be so quick to upgrade every couple of years.
Yeah.
Because when you wait 5 years to upgrade, assuming that you did not absolutely require new hardware to do what you do, that really gives you an opportunity to look back on how has my workflow changed in the past 5 years. Like for the past 2 or 3 years, I've had basically upgrades of my Mac hardware on the table and budgeted for. And the thinking was always going to be, I would repeat what I've been doing previously, which is I'm going to have a moderately, but not insanely powerful MacBook, but I'm also going to have a Mac Mini on the desktop that stays at home. And now I'm sort of in the point of view of, I'm not sure that I absolutely need a Mac Mini anymore. It helps that they're now more expensive and they're harder to obtain. But now it's more like, I'm thinking more like next year, if I find that I'm missing out on a desktop experience, like a permanent installed desktop experience, I will revisit that. Honestly, for me, I'm more thinking about diversity of hardware, so that if I'm, instead of spending $1,000 to $1,300 on a kitted out Mac desktop, what if I use that budget towards discrete devices that will serve me very, very well under very specific circumstances?
Quickly, because we're running out of time, because we had such a long startup because we were having internet issues, which I think have gotten better, right? The audio seems to it's kind of fixed itself. Yeah.
Your video looks good too.
No, never mind. The big one for me, maybe I will put my dollars that I'm not going to spend on that OLED laptop. I really am not. Will be devoted to the other Mark Gurman story dropped yesterday. This morning, 6 a.m. Apple's set to make big smart home push with Siri AI at the center. Now we're going to see new Apple TV, new refreshed HomePod Mini. Those will be this fall. A new hub device we've heard about for ages, FaceTime video conferencing, home security monitoring, a display, face recognition. This is a big tranche of new Apple hardware this fall.
Yeah, they're clearly gonna have probably a home event in October, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, they've done that before, haven't they?
They have.
Yeah, I think that's and then if you can imagine, it's going to be new Apple TV, new HomePods, this new HomePod screen thing that also is kind of like a home controller device, and then and all tied to Siri AI. And then on top of that, they may also do. Gurman's kind of unclear about this, but they may also have a camera or two cameras, like a Ring doorbell kind of camera, and then maybe also some other kind of home security camera. So whether they all drop at the same time or not, you could see them doing a whole. Because again, when Apple does product announcements, a lot of the time the way you have to think about it is what story do they want to tell? Because sometimes there's no story. Sometimes it's like, hey, there's a new Mac. Or they'll be like, oh, our chips are so great. Let's tell you about the M5 and here are some products with the M5. But they always want to tell some story. Otherwise, you might as well just do a press release. Well, you line up all these products. There's a story to tell. And presumably it'll have some of their the iCloud stuff where the camera data is in iCloud, and they'll talk about the Home app and they'll talk about Siri AI, and presumably they'll have some things like App Intents or widgets that are integrated into this as well. Gurman says that it's based on an operating system that comes from Apple TV, from tvOS, but then has been modified. So it's basically another OS variant for Apple that does some sort of TV-like things and also some widget-like things. So I mean, they're all kind of variants of each other. So this is another one. Like, you can see the shape of this pitch that they want to make. You can see, and apparently John Turnus is one of the driving forces behind a lot of this home stuff. And guess who will be the CEO this fall? So you can sort of see it.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I will absolutely buy whatever the new Apple TV is, just because I always do, even though, I have my complaints with it. I would certainly tell no one to buy an Apple TV as it currently exists at the current price.
Right.
In no universe, period. But I feel confident they can make an argument for why I should give them $250 or whatever in the fall. And I'm fine with that. I do wonder, and with John Turnus as CEO, you make a great point, Jason, he's been kind of leading this and maybe he can tell the story better. Even though Siri AI is better, I don't know, how many times are we going to take a swing at this home stuff before, to me, I won't even consider, this is just me, but I won't even consider a HomePod, and I won't even consider this HomePod, this Siri screen thing. It's not even part of my consideration process. There's no universe in which I could buy one.
You would, though, if you had a bunch of HomeKit app IoT devices, right?
Yeah, but I do, and I use Home Assistant. I would much rather use Home Assistant.
Yeah, but Home Assistant's not an 80% thing. It's a 10% thing. So
I agree with you. But what I'm saying, though, is that I don't
What's
think
the optimal setup? That's the thing, is you want the optimal setup, not everybody's setup.
It's not even a matter of that. It's just a matter of HomeKit is terrible. And in controlling HomeKit things, in my opinion, is terrible. So I would rather, to be completely candid with you, not have the smart stuff at all, except for a few things if I need to, than deal with what I think is a genuinely abysmal experience of trying to manage any of your HomeKit devices and then trying to say, oh, well, does this work? Does this work? How do these things work together? This is just me, though. If other people get it, that's great.
I think it's a lot better than it used to be. I think part of that is everybody's headed toward interoperability. They're no longer breaking each other's stuff. Part of it for me is probably that I've realized what products work in my home and what products don't, and I don't use the products that don't work. In the early days, you use whatever you could get your hands on, and a lot of it was garbage. I got a bunch of lights. I got a smart lock on the front door. I've got a thermostat that I can control via HomeKit. I've got, the heater in my office that I can control. I've got blinds that adjust via, HomeKit and other things, right? But a lot of Lutron stuff, because the Lutron stuff is rock solid.
Yeah.
And so I look at this and I think, well, if I can get some devices, whether it's a HomePod or a thing with a screen or whatever, that first off use Siri AI so they actually respond to what I want them to do in an intelligent way, which is a big if, but it's more encouraging now that we've seen Siri AI in the iOS betas. And I'm open to the idea also of pulling some data out of my widgets that are otherwise like my iPhone sits most of the time in a charging dock sideways using that nightstand mode where it's got a couple widgets up there. I like the idea of having an ambient display. I have gone through an Amazon device, an Echo Show. I have a Google Home Mini Nest, whatever it's called now, in my kitchen. Those products are so bad. The Google one's better than the Amazon one by a long shot, but they're not good. They're so if I could get one that is like it's Apple ecosystem. It's got decent hardware. It's got a nice screen that'll show me pictures from my photos library. It's got Siri AI, so it'll actually answer my questions or do what I want. And it's got kind of a nice interface for some of my home stuff. I am actually interested in that. Now, that's a lot of bars for them. That's not a bar. That's like a running the hurdles, right? There is a long series of bars for them to clear to get there. And maybe now that they've got Siri AI, they can do it. But I'm at least intrigued because for me, at least, the home stuff has settled down because, again, I think a lot of the garbage is just washed out of the market, or some of it is I won't buy the garbage anymore. Whatever it is, I think it's in a better place now. So I think there's a place for this if they can execute. And
yes,
and that's, I mean, a lot of this stuff hardware wise has been there for what Gurman says, like a year or more, and they've been waiting for Siri AI. Now, whether they can turn Siri AI, which is still a beta, into something that will work reliably with these products when they ship them, assume this fall, we will have to see. But if they could do it, I feel like, Christina, I mean, I share your feelings about how bad a lot of the smart home stuff has been, but that's why when I bring up the Echo Show and I bring up the Google Nest Home Mini, whatever it is, they keep changing the name. I don't know. There's lots of words in that.
Oh,
name.
yeah. No. Oh, so I want to be clear.
They're real
all
bad. So the bar is super low.
The bar is non-existent. And I want to be honest with you. If this bar, if they could clear all those hurdles, I'm with you. I would actually go back on my words and I would say, yeah, I'm willing to invest in this sort of ecosystem. And I also believe you. I'm sure that things have improved. I haven't kept up with a lot of the HomeKit stuff as much, to be completely candid, because it was so bad that I had to find another assistant. I found a Raspberry Pi and I found Home Assistant and I can still use with HomeKit, that I can still use with all my iOS devices, that works for me. So for me, and I'm not saying is it easy for other people to set up with, no, it's not. But at the same time, I'm also not in a place where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to completely reinvest and rejigger my entire environment on this promise that at this point, Apple has been making to me for almost 10 years.
I get it.
And that they haven't delivered. I'm hopeful that they do, but it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I will genuinely believe it when I see it, but I am not willing personally to invest a dime in your home ecosystem until I know for a fact that it's actually going to be, clear all those bars and not be better than, the Raspberry Pi 3 that I have running Home Assistant.
I mean, Home Assistant, I have a little Home Assistant box too, although it's not plugged in right now. Like the great thing about something like Home Assistant is it also exports everything to HomeKit. So I have friends who, they've got the Home Assistant app and they've set up all these automations and things like that. And that's great. Their family never sees it. They just see HomeKit.
Right.
And this Apple device,
that's how mine is.
This Apple device, if it works well, it doesn't fight your Home Assistant system. It supplements it because it's just a controller. So if again, but that's one of those hurdles they got. Again, we're in the Olympics here, right?
We're in the Olympics, and again, if they can do that, and if the Apple TV can access that hub, that's great. I'm just personally saying I'm not buying anything from Apple with a screen on it to control my home. Personally, I will also say this: I will never buy another HomePod again. I don't think they're good devices. If you don't listen to only Apple's oriented music, I can't do it. People who love them, support them. That's great for you. I'm a Sonos person. Sonos has plenty of problems too, but I just, I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that Apple has a lot to prove. And one of the problems is that as far as actual home automation goes, I don't actually care what system it is. All I want to do is hot word, turn on the office lights. Yeah. Hot word, turn on the air conditioning at 4 p.m. so that the temperature is 68 degrees by X time. And if Gemini is doing that, great. If Siri is doing that, well, that's fine too. I'm not going to trust Amazon because of all the advertising collection. I will say this, though. I am very, very intrigued by the unique circumstances that Apple has found themselves under with AI. I get the impression that Apple really did have a very big plan for home automation and home artificial intelligence that were very much scuppered by the problems they were having in getting their models actually online. I'm optimistic, let's say, and that drives a curiosity that do they really have a really, really good plan? Are they going to do something very, very interesting? So interesting, in fact, that when they do, as Jason so correctly says, when they put out, here is the entire story of Siri for the home from start to finish, not, oh, we did a press release and, oh, we briefed a few influencers about this. No. They're going to have videos in which they tell the entire story about we have wonderful plans for your home, and Siri is going to be the smarts behind it. I'm very, very keen to see if that is actually a good workable plan, because I get the idea that they've been very, very frustrated that they could not do this 2 years ago. Again, that promises nothing, but at least it means that whereas, as I just said, there's almost nothing that could get me to put an Amazon home automation product or a smart speaker into my house at this point. Whereas with Apple, I've been very, very disappointed by them, but I'm at least going to pay very, very close attention to what they have to say with the next round of stuff. It also helps that I haven't updated my home speakers in a bunch of years, and would not be a terrible idea for me to say, you know what, maybe I'll put $500, $600 aside to buy a collection of a half dozen smart speakers, both the little ones to get me conversations wherever I want, and a couple of the big ones for actually listening to music. So I'll be paying close attention.
Well, we'll find out this fall. It's going to be a busy fall. There's no doubt about it. If Grumman is right, and I think he is. Yeah, and lots of
Tim really did plan a runway for John to have, like,
isn't that nice?
to have so many Willy Wonka moments in the next 2 or 3 months. They actually wasn't it? Did you notice that this is the first time that they seem to be doing a sort of a transitional event? They had the premiere event for the new series of Ted Lasso, and both Tim and John were sort of joined at the hip through all the press. They gave a couple of interviews as like sort of partners in this endeavor, which shows how they are now very much interested in how the transition is going to be handled. As now there's going to be a couple of different faces of the company, and one is going to be fading away, and the other one's going to be fading up.
All right, let's take a little break. There's a few more things to talk about. You're watching MacBreak Weekly with Andy Ihnatko. New website. Looking good. Everybody should join. ihnatko.com. And he's filing. How many stories a day do you think you're writing now?
Oh, I'm one guaranteed a week. I'm trying to get on a regular schedule of 2 to 3 a week, in addition to the exclusive ones. The fun problem is that the thing that I thought, oh, this will be very, very simple. I'll do like a simple rundown of Apple news, just like links and just little descriptors about what I think about these things. And now, like the last week's was about 3,000 words of just comments on individual stories in this one document. So I'm having fun, and I'm trying to get to like a more like Monday, Wednesday, Friday sort of schedule. But I'm very, very pleased with the stuff that I've been posting so far. I hope the people who have been supporting the site and people who come in for free have been enjoying it as well.
Good job.
Thank you for the pitch. Job. That was very nice.
Yeah. Nice. We're all thrilled. It's nice to see you gainfully employed.
Well, I mean, it's tech journalism, so gainfully for certain versions of the word gainfully.
Well, as you know, many of us have learned the best solution to all of this is to go independent and make your own way and build your own brand. And I think you've got a great brand. You should
surprised and relieved and pleased that it turns out that there are people who are saying, you know what, I do want to support that, because that was not by no means fixed in my mind that I would find out that would be the case. I'm even more grateful for that.
Christina Warren, also from GitHub, where she is doing developer relations and keeping an eye on Copilot and all the amazing things. GitHub has become literally the hub for AI development these days, which has been both a challenge and an opportunity for the Git.
That's wild.
I bet you're more busy than you've ever been. It's pretty amazing.
No, I mean, there's so many developments and changes happening in software. And like, you know, at GitHub, what's always been cool about us is that like how our company works is that we kind of mirror the industry a little bit too. You know, we build GitHub using GitHub, and I think we're also kind of a reflection of the broader changes you see in the industry with moving to agentic development and whatnot. You know, I've been having conversations with a lot of my friends who are devs, and you know, we spend a whole lot less time writing code than reading and reviewing code. And you wonder, okay, well, when is even that going to shift, right? And that doesn't mean that you're not involved. That doesn't mean that you're not vibe coding, but more and more of the work is being done now by, you know, agents. And it's really interesting to observe, and it's cool to kind of be in the thick of all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very exciting. We're all excited. I mean, that's, people say, why do you talk about AI so much? It's, you know, why did we talk about the iPhone so much in 2007? When you have a paradigm shift, a sea change that changes everything. And I think as much as the internet changed everything, AI is changing everything even more and even faster. And so it requires a certain type of personality.
Consideration requires some thought and consideration. But I think the type of people who watch these shows and listen to these shows are also the ones who are going to benefit from it the most, because we don't know how it's going to go, but I feel very strongly like AI is another tool to be used, and nerdy people who want to be early to using tools that will make their jobs better, who are the people who do listen to podcasts like this, like these are the people who will be impacted the most by this stuff right now. I have some skepticism about, in the end, using. I feel like that tool is being misused already, and people think it's going to be used in ways that it is not going to ever be suitable for, and eventually we'll get over that. And I think a lot of the anger about AI is about that. But like computer programming and, you know, agentic churning on data for nerdy people to build, that stuff is going to be big.
Forever. In the words of the immortal Chameleonaire, we're all riding nerdy. Let's pause on that note. Think about that.
Please.
Just a thought. Our show today brought to you by CashFly. CashFly, literally brought to you by CashFly's our CDN, our content delivery network. They've kept our content moving practically since the very beginning. Every stream, every download, every on-demand episode, CashFly quietly does the heavy lifting behind the scenes, and we love them for that. Thank you, CashFly. Around for longer than we've been, more than 20 years. CashFly is anything but static. That's what I like about them. They don't rest on their laurels. Here are a few things to know. If you're evaluating CDN options for your infrastructure with CashFly, game downloads, as an example, up to 158% faster than the other guys. Sub-second video start times on any device at scale. That's important to us because we know if you go to the Twit website and you press the play button on the video, if it doesn't start up right away, you're gone. Rock solid software delivery, even on chaotic launch days, live streaming to millions of concurrent users without breaking a sweat. CashFly, as I said, they're always improving. They just added a few features you might be interested in. For instance, we love it. Advanced analytics, very helpful for us for deep CDN visibility into our portal or with your observability stack. You get edge control, which gives you programmatic request and response handling at the edge. They also have added Terraform integration to manage CDN resources with code. And you know what that means. If you can manage it with code, you can manage it with many other tools, right? With more than 75 points of presence across 6 continents, and I'm sure they're working on Antarctica, you get the best local response time. That's important to us because we have listeners all over the world. That's probably why CashFly has now more than 5,000 customers. Oh, we also love this 100% uptime SLA. Not 4 nines, 5 nines, 100 nines, 100% uptime SLA, and 24/7 engineer-to-engineer support. Patrick Delahanty loves that, our CIO. Enjoy flexible billing, no strong arm contracts. CashFly is the CDN built for your business. It was built for ours. Learn how you can get your first month free at cashfly.com/Twit. You've heard me say it so many times. Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com/Twit. Thank you, CashFly. Thank you. Let's see. Time for the Big Vision Pro segment. Such as...
What do you see? What do you know?
Crickets.
It's time to talk the Vision Pro.
I think this is kind of cool. You remember Slumdog Millionaire, 127 hours?
Yeah.
AR Rahman has launched ARR Immersive for Apple Vision Pro. 150 million records sold, 170 industry awards, multiple Academies Awards and Grammy Awards. Rahman is making immersive experiences, blending music, dance, and performance. I guess it's kind of a little Bollywood on your Vision Pro, I guess. So, well, there's scent of, let's see, what's on a man's body. So it's actually a whole bunch of stuff. Not just for the Indian market. I think there are a lot of people who would love this. Have you put it on your Vision? No, I'm sure you haven't. Have you put this on your Vision Pro, Jason?
Nope.
Okay. I just
don't know anything about it.
There's some people who would be thrilled about this. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I had to do something.
No, you didn't.
How else am I supposed to maintain our preeminence as
I think the bar is lower than that. I'm just saying, I think we could be the preeminent Vision Pro oriented podcast without covering the Vision Pro every week.
Okay. Well, Andy, thanks for nothing. There's 0 Vision Pros in your lineup either. So I got something.
You do you. I'm just saying that when even Andy did not come up with anything relevant to put in his notes. That's usually, But hey, again, we got to keep our liquor license, and whatever the state requires us to do to keep that liquor license.
That's
I
right.
suppose I don't know what the regulatory stuff is. That's your job. So happy to support you.
This was I love this article, by the way, Jason. Oh, by the way, I got to close it out.
Oh,
Now you see,
That's your Vision.
now you know, we're done talking the Vision Pro.
no.
Can I give up our crown? Is it time to give up the crown?
I think we retain the crown as long as we cover when there are relevant things to cover.
You know what it's like? I have a lot of mayorships in Swarm, formerly Foursquare. A lot of them. Because no one's using it anymore. So I am still the mayor of like 12 different places. Just because no one else is checking in.
See, I was gonna say that this is the problem with like fitness apps and Duolingo apps that basically reward you for maintaining streaks. It basically turns you into somebody who does something not because they want to do it, but because they simply don't want to lose the streak.
Yeah. I am proud to be a mayor of. Let me see here. I have because I recently put Swarm back on my phone, thinking. I don't know. It was kind of fun back in the day. Do you still use it, Christina?
Okay, so I used it like reliably for a really, really long time, and then I stopped. I think when they something changed where it couldn't auto post to various social networks, and it wasn't even the Twitter integration. It was that I used to like to check in at certain places so my mom would know where I was, and I would just post like to a friends only thing on Facebook, which I don't even use anymore. And when that went away, like. When I travel, I guess I do, but not anymore. But it is funny. I've noticed the same thing you have, where I've like checked in a place one time, and they're like, "If you check in one more time, you'll be the new mayor." And I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah,
I'm the mayor."
I was like, I'm the mayor because no one else uses this service.
This damn service.
Hey, you know what? At least it's still around. I'm really glad that it's still around.
It's me and Owen Thomas, basically, and
Owen checks in
goes
everywhere.
around and favorites everywhere I go just because he wants me to remember.
Same. I was gonna say Owen. I see Owen all the time. His updates, the gym, anything else, and I'm like, I'm like, Owen, thank you for still. And he likes my check-ins too, and I'm like, oh, thank God, there's still one person. Owen's
so
the best.
Cute. Yeah. Well, Christina, I will follow you. I guess I'm not following you.
Yeah, maybe not, or I'm not following you. Are you Leo Laporte? I'll follow you as well.
I am Leo Laporte on this Swarm. If anybody wants to know, everywhere I go, all the time, it's on my watch. I can actually press a button and check in. It's probably a privacy nightmare. I'm probably helping ICE track down illegal immigrants or something like that. But you know what? Damn it, I want to keep those mayorships. Anyway, that's what it's like. Let's talk about soap, because this was a really funny,
I love this.
funny piece. I loved it that you wrote it. Always choose the good soap. Would you explain what this is all about?
Yeah, so John Gruber has been writing lately all these things about. He's basically got the receipts from the an earlier version of Apple boasting about how they always care about the customer and they don't want to make decisions that will harm the customer experience, and that the Apple's better than that. And it has to do with things. In recent years, it's things like adding ads to the App Store. Which I find offensive because it's charging developers who are in the App Store so that their apps are visible in the App Store. So they're basically, they're taking the money that they don't take away from developers and taking more of it away from developers. And now they're going to add this summer, they're adding ads to Apple Maps, and they always pitch it as an improvement to the discovery experience and things like that. Although as I pointed out in my story, if you notice that press release, it's about something else, a different product. And then there's a subhead halfway down that's also not actually about the ads. And then you get to the second paragraph and it mentions that there are going to be ads in Apple Maps. And to me, that suggests that there are lots of people inside Apple who don't think this is great. And the trained marketing geniuses are hiding it because they know it's not actually a thing to boast about. So my story kind of like prodded by John, and it was very funny because John posted a thing that's from a mutual friend of ours literally right after I had written my thing. And both of us referenced the fact that, among other things, Apple also doesn't take or never took co-marketing money from Intel to put Intel Inside stickers on their computers, right?
Yeah, which is probably a lot of money.
It's
Every other guy does that.
They'll let you do it, but you got to put their logo in your ads and stuff. And Apple's like, we're not going to do that. Like, and famously, there was a whole press conference where somebody asked Steve Jobs about it, and he said, we like our stickers better. And in the end, he was like, there's a lot of junk on PCs, and we don't do that here. So my point is, this is Apple's brand promise. Apple has never been the low price leader. Apple is always making products that are more expensive, but the idea is they're nicer. You buy more to get more. They're never going to be super cheap, but they've got things about them that make them nicer and better. And that the problem is you degrade your brand promise at your own peril. And when your brand gets degraded, it's harder to do brand rehab. Every cut makes it harder. Every time somebody is like, oh, I can't believe Apple's doing this, makes it harder for you to get that back. And I think there are people at Apple I think there are probably people at Apple who are deluded into thinking that adding a bunch of junk into an Apple product doesn't matter, because that's not why people buy Apple products. I think they're wrong. I think that adding junk in, not having the junk is a reason people buy Apple products, is they want it to be nicer. But I also think that clearly in the last 10 years, there's been a culture shift at Apple where they are very motivated by revenue enhancements. And, from this thing or that thing. And ads is a great example of it, but it's also stuff like, let's do a pro app bundle. And why don't we throw our non-pro productivity apps in the bundle anyway and put a bunch of ads in the toolbars and stuff of pages and numbers for this creative professional bundle, which is totally kind of inappropriate and junks up those apps. And those apps don't exist to generate revenue. Those apps exist to make Apple's platforms more usable, because they can open Word files and Excel files and PowerPoint files and let you do word processing and stuff. So they kind of lost the plot there. And the reason for the soap, Leo, is I went to Hawaii in February, and we stayed at a nicer place than we usually stay. We usually just rent a condo somewhere, and it's like a Vrbo. It's fine. It's Hawaii. It's great. And we splurged a little bit and I decided I wanted to stay at a little nicer kind of resort place. And one of the things that I was thinking, because this is me, as I was washing my hands at the hotel sink, is they have the really nice soap. They have when I stay at a Best Western in Eugene, Oregon to pick up or drop off my kids for college, they've got the little tiniest possible rectangle that maybe it got damp at some point, so it's sort of stuck together, but you can rip it off and you get to the little tiny little bar of soap,
isn't it? Yeah.
And at the Sheraton Kauai at the beach, it's like this kind of curved bar of soap that's sitting there, and it's got a nice smell. And the point I'm making about soap is, if you're that resort, you could have worse sheets, and you could have less often that people come in and take care of the room. You could save by reducing how often you clean the grounds and clean the swimming pool. You could buy the cheaper soap. But the problem is, you could save a lot of money, but you're doing yourself damage because you are in the category of a kind of a luxury. I don't go to the Four Seasons or anything. It is the Sheraton, but still it's Hawaii and it's on the beach. You don't want to be the Motel 6. You don't want to be the Super 8. You are selling a certain level of quality, and that means foregoing opportunities to cheap out. And my point with the soap is, if you're Apple, you got to always choose the nice soap because that's part of Apple's brand. And I think there are people at Apple who know this, but I think there are other people at Apple who are winning arguments, and they're winning the arguments because they're like, but money. And culturally, for whatever reason, but money is winning arguments.
That's a shame.
That should be won by but user experience, right?
Yes. That's how you got here.
And I'll just say, this is near and dear to my heart because the last 5 years I was in my corporate job, day in, day out, the number one thing I did was not review Apple products or see what was going to be in the next issue or manage my editors for Macworld and PC World. The number one thing that I did was fight with people in our sales and business development department who came in with a constant parade of little tiny bits of revenue that they could add to the company that would make our websites worse. And their attitude was, well, what's the problem? It's money. Why would we turn down money? And it's very difficult to be the person who has to say, as a business, we need to forego revenue because the whole purpose is to make money, right? The whole purpose of the business. But you got to have the big picture in mind. You got to think about the product, the brand promise, whatever you want to say about it. Somebody has to stand up for it, and you got to be empowered. And I was mostly not empowered, and it was very frustrating. And that's why I'm very glad I don't have that job anymore. But it's really lonely to be the person who says, you know what, I think our company needs to forego this $1 million because it's going to make our product crappy.
It's hard.
But what I think Apple needs to do is have a little bit of a cultural reset where they realize the brand promise is the biggest asset at Apple, not the iPhone, not the Mac, nothing else. It's the Apple brand and what it stands for. And when you lose it and you're just another tech company that doesn't have anything going for it, there's no reason why you'd buy a Mac over a PC at that point. It's really hard to get it back. So is one ad in Apple Maps going to destroy Apple? Well, no. The problem is that for the last 10 years, they've been saying to just one of all sorts of things. And how long is this going to go on? And it's going to require a cultural shift, which means it really is going to require somebody like John Turnus to say, you know what? We kind of lost our values here and we need to fix it and we need to rethink what we're doing. That's the soap.
That's the soapbox. And you can, can stand on that anytime. I agree with you 100%. I'm not saying, oh, ads, icky, yuck. I'm like, I get it, but like, think about it and think about the ramifications of it. Like adding the second ad to the App Store, I think really set a bunch of people off. Because now if you do an App Store search on your iPhone, it's way first down. It's a big ad, then you might get one good result, and then there's another big ad, and you got to scroll to get to the rest of the content. And now Apple Maps, the relevant content's going to be under an ad. Like at some point, you just got to say, this is bad for our customers, and that means it's bad for us. Instead of, we could do whatever they want. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as a consequence-free additional ad unit. They all degrade the experience. They all do. And if you want to choose to do it, know what you're doing. And I think over the last 10 years, they haven't known what they're doing. They don't, or the people who get to win the arguments don't care. That's what I think is going on there. So I think you're absolutely right. It's not like they need the money. That's the thing that gets me. I understood if you were struggling. They
make a lot of money on expensive hardware. Maybe that's the value of their product, not all of the ancillary garbage that they then put in the expensive, nice hardware.
This might be a relevant time to say that today Apple broke $5 trillion in valuation.
Oh, it happened today. Their stock's way up, isn't it? Holy cow!
Partly because of the Apple upgrade program, I think.
Yeah, people liked that. Wall Street liked it. It also helped Klarna's stock, by the way.
Yeah, it helped theirs a lot.
A lot. See, this is why if you just knew ahead of time. Oh yeah, that's illegal. Thank you, Jason, for fighting the good fight. I agree with you. It's one of the reasons we turn down advertisers all the time. We have to do ads. We do need the ads, but we turn away money. People think we're crazy often because we say no to an advertiser.
Look at a Windows PC that's full. Even to this day, Windows PCs are full of garbageware that's only on there. It's not enhancing. They'll tell you it's enhancing your experience. It's not. It's a way for them to make more money. Or look at a lot of the streamer boxes and TVs even now, where like the business model is, well, we're also going to surveil you, or we're going to load you up with ads, or that Amazon Echo Show is going to be real cheap because all it's going to do is sit there and ask you to buy things. I'm like, you can. The alternative is not good, and Apple should not lose sight of the fact that they are supposed to be the nicer alternative, and that means something.
Yeah. Couple of media stories. Apple. First, you got Bollywood. Now you've got Mexican micro dramas shot on iPhone 17 Pro. It's called Nido de Vianas.
Yeah.
Probably Vianas, right? This tongue-in-cheek Mexican microdrama. You know, all microdramas should be shot on iPhone 17 Pro. People watch them on their phones. What do you need? What do you need them in anything higher quality? Although these look good, and it's vertical video, right? So it's perfect.
Who knew Quibi wasn't a terrible idea after all?
It was too early.
It was just
right?
too early.
Quibi, this is something I never thought I'd say, was ahead of its time.
Quibi was ahead of its time.
Microdramas are big on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Is that where they are?
That's, I guess, or other network. I don't watch them. That's not my thing. But yeah, I mean, they apparently do well.
It's just one more addiction I do not need. And this I'm nervous about. Could be good, could be bad. Apple is, Apple went to Comic-Con, I guess, San Diego Comic-Con over the weekend, and announced a bunch of stuff, including a date for Neuromancer, which we've been interested in.
And we got a real trailer.
A real trailer, January 22nd. God, I love this book, which makes me very, very nervous.
William Gibson says he's very happy with it.
Okay.
So that's cool.
Boy, if it's a good Neuromancer, right? I will be so excited.
It'll be interesting because, the world is very different from in 1983 when he wrote it, or 1982 when he wrote it. And technology's moved along. And so the metaphor and the concept, I think, has been updated a little bit just because our view of the future is a little bit different. But like such a classic book, and really just got stymied because a bunch of bad cyberpunk movies got made. And including Johnny Mnemonic, which was based on a William Gibson story. And then they made The Matrix, which was totally lifting all that stuff. And it was such a cultural hit that it's almost like it became impossible to do another one because The Matrix did it. So it's really taken this long to get here. But I'm excited, super excited.
Oh, I love that book. You know what? Do read it before you go see it or watch it on TV, because it deserves to be read in the original. And then watch the show. I'll reread it before the show comes out. Dark Matter has a second season, which is good.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting show that I don't think got the attention it deserved.
Great show.
Yeah. Very interesting. Upcoming movie called Matchbox, John Cena. I don't care.
No.
It's based on Matchbox toys. Now I really don't care.
Why? Why are we doing this?
Why? Because I don't know.
I mean, look, Barbie was a great example of, if you have good story, you can elevate the IP of anything. Instead, the only lesson Hollywood seems to have taken from that was, we can now have successful toy movies. And like Masters of the Universe flopped, as by all accounts it should have, and anybody who knew that would have known that was going to be a flop. Like, again, Barbie worked because Greta Gerwig played upon the idea of Barbie, but there wasn't anything, because Barbie doesn't have an origin story, so it wasn't about that. It was about a bunch of other things that just happened to live in a Barbie universe, which was compelling and great. I don't know why we need a movie about Matchbox cars. I really don't.
Enough said. MacBreak Weekly continues with your picks of the week just around the corner. A reminder that this show exists because of you, our listeners. In the beginning at Twit, I really was hoping I could do the whole thing without ads. I really wanted to. But there was no Patreon at the time, no memberful, no tip jar. Well, we had a tip jar. That's all we had. And it didn't generate enough income to do anything but maybe a part-time job for me by myself doing a show. So we, after a year or two, turned to advertising. it's been very, very good to us. I won't complain. It's allowed us to really build the network at its peak. We had that beautiful studio and lots of shows. But as advertising has dwindled, so has our ambition. We have fewer shows. We don't have a studio anymore. We've cut as much as we can. But to this day, I just asked Lisa the other day, 35% of our operating costs now are supported by the very generous contributions of our TWIT members. And that, to me, is the way I'd like to make it full-time permanent. If we could do that, no advertising at all, I would. I really would. But it's going to take you guys stepping up. So right now, it's fewer than 2%. One in 50 of our listeners and viewers joining the club. Get that to 1 in 20, 1 in 10, and yeah, we wouldn't need ads. So here's what we do. For $10 a month, you join Club Twit, twit.tv/clubtwit. You get ad-free versions of all the shows, so that you don't get any ads. Plus, because there are no ads, we can give you chapter markers, which everybody seems to want, and I agree, that's a great thing. Because the length of the ads varies, and we have direct ad insertion, we can't really do that in ad-supported shows, but we easily can do it with ad-free shows, so we do. You also get access to a really happy place, in my opinion, the Club Twit Discord, a wonderful, wonderful place to hang. With animated GIFs and wonderful AI content. You also get a lot of special programming that we do for the club. We could do because of the club, programming that wouldn't have any advertisers, just because it's kind of niche programming. Coming up this week on Friday, Off by One with Jeff Atwood. No one's going to buy this, but we love doing it. Jeff, of course, the creator of the Stack Overflow, the coding horror blog, and Discourse, which is the forum software we use and love. Jeff is a wild man, but he is so much fun. We do a number of our shows in the club just for the club, but also our AI users group. We've decided to move that to twice a month because there's so much to talk about. Micah does his crafting corner on the third Wednesday of every month. Chris Marquardt with Photo Time. Our assignment this month is Rugged. Stacey's Book Club coming up August 21st. Slow Gods is the book by Claire North. And we've added, because Stacey was only doing the book club every other month, Micah said, why don't we do a media club? So we also do a media club. We just did The Matrix. Speaking of The Matrix, we are now voting on what the next media item will be for the September 18th meeting of Micah's Media Club. That's just an example of the kind of stuff we can do because of you, the Club Twit members. If you're not a member yet, please consider helping us out. It's don't tell the advertisers this, but it is my dream, my goal at some point to just be ad-free for everybody. Not a paywall, but if enough people supported it, 1 in 5, then we wouldn't have to charge everybody. We just, and that would make it my dream come true. twit.tv/clubtwit. Let us get to the picks of the week. I'll start them off because I just got this. The company 12 South is so innovative, so interesting. They do things you didn't know you needed until they make them. And then you go, oh, I wish I'd always had this. This is their power bug. Man, I love this idea. What is it? Well, it's a MagSafe adapter, cheat chew adapter that just plugs into the wall.
That's cool.
So when you get to the hotel, you just plug it into the wall and then you attach your phone to it. And if you do it sideways, you've got a wall clock, and it charges it, and it's just simple and brilliant. $50 immediately. As soon as they put it out, I said, I have to have this. The Power Bug from 12 South. What a clever idea! I don't know why no one else thought of that. Christina, your pick of the week.
So I've been going down a rabbit hole the last, a week or so about trying to kind of do various things about self-hosting my audiobook library so that I can access it other ways. And I was reminded of an app that I've actually been using for a while, but I figured I would make this my pick of the week. This is an app called Book Player, bookplayer.app.
I use this and I love it. This plus libation and your life suddenly turns around.
It's great, and what I like about this app is it's really good in the sense that you can use it, I guess, like I said, with something like an audio bookshelf, or with Plex, or with Libation, or other things. I
just put my books on my Apple iDrive.
I was going to say, but you don't even have to do that. What I like about this versus some of the other solutions, because there are a number of other front ends for audio bookshelf or Plex if you want to host your things that way. But in this case, it'll just play back any M4 file or any MP3 file. It supports chapters. It's great. It's free. If you pay, he has a pro service that'll keep up with like syncing across devices.
Which I do, because it's worth it. Yep.
Yeah. I typically only kind of like tend to like listen in certain scenarios. So I haven't done that yet, but it's a great app. It's open source. It's frequently developed. He's been doing this for a really long time. And there's even an Android version now too. It also works on the Mac. And so Book Player is my pick.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I use Libation to, when I left Audible, download my 500 plus
Correct.
Audible books, remove the DRM, put them on iCloud, and now with Book Player I can add them to my Book Player library. It syncs them up. This is a nice feature. I can play it from my iPhone, can play it from my Mac. It's just such a good idea. There are a lot of audiobook players. I agree with you. This one is my favorite. Good choice. And look, Neuromancer is on my current list of things.
See?
Read by Steve Gibson. Look at that. I'm ready.
Amazing.
Thank you, Christina. Good recommendation. Andy Anako, pick of the week.
I've said before that I'm not really a smartwatch type of guy. I just can't get used to it. And I really, really have a genuine love for Casio, like cheap Casio watches, because like I think they've got like a classic look to them. They're cheap. You can have like a collection of them for like less than $100. And again, they're just genuinely cool. And this one had been on my wish list for a while. This is the WS1600H. There's nothing terribly special about it. I think it's the big call of this is that it has lots and lots of stopwatch functions and lots and lots of timers. What I like about it has that really cool, like animated, like sort of like tachometer at the very, very top and a spinning wheel, neither of which serve any functional purpose for timekeeping other than
that's what we love about really, Casio.
Really cool.
Yeah,
exactly.
Buttons for buttons' sakes.
And yeah, I mean, it's also the type of engineering I really, really like, because these things are almost indestructible. This is water resistant all down to like 100 meters. This is like, I'd be very, very frightened no matter how well warranted and tested the $800 like Apple Watch is to be rugged. I'd be like, but it's an $800 watch, and if it gets destroyed by water, I'll be upset. If I lose it off my wrist while I'm swimming, I'll be very, very upset. This is really, really cheap. I'll just simply buy. I'll say, oh darn the luck, and I'll buy another one. And also, the battery lasts
40
10 years,
folks, from the Casio website.
Well, it's a 10-year battery, which means that this will, if you are a smartwatch type of person, sometimes it's a good idea to simply have one watch in the box that you know always will be working, so that if there's something that like is the battery's dead, we need to leave the house, or if you do have a fancy watch but for some reason it's not working correctly, you need to get to the airport, grab the watch with a 10-year battery. This is a really good recommendation because, like I said, it's $40 list, but according to Camel, every couple of months they discount it down to $22, and it's actually discounted down to $22 right now.
It looks like Amazon has it for $22. Unbelievable.
Right. And the last thing about it is that because this style has been around for years and years and years, case modding Casio watches of this model is very, very popular. So you can take the watch module out of this, put it into a stainless steel case, add like lens filters so that the different sections of it are different colors, change it to like a standard band. There's a lot of fun things you can do with them. And again, it's just a hell of a lot of fun for $22.
Is it really a 10-year battery?
Says they could not print the words 10-year battery right here on the watch itself if they were not the
that's kind of stunning
truth. Yeah.
So this is good. If there's a nuclear apocalypse, you will want to have this in your drawer.
Exactly. Also, because again, if you don't want to have to fire up that diesel generator to charge up your Apple Watch, because the plume of smoke will in the hinterlands will alert the other tribes that you have gas.
They have gas. It's for the Mad Max world that is to come. The Casio WS1600H.
Hope for the best, expect the worst.
$40 list, but yeah, I see it on Amazon for $22. Why wouldn't I just bought it, by the way? I mean, I'm an Apple Watch fanatic. I can't. If I don't have my Apple Watch on, I turn back and go home and put it on.
I just get bored wearing the same watch each and every day. I like to be able to change things up a little bit.
Yeah. Jason Snell, you got to wrap things up.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Thank you. Take care, Andy. You wrap things up now, Jason, with your pick of the week.
Yeah, this got a real Andy and Nutco vibe to it, so I'm just going to continue this. There is an Apple II hacker named 4AM who builds all sorts of amazing things for retro computing for the Apple II. There's a vibrant Apple II community. They make extensions like new hardware that attaches to the Apple II. And 4AM came out last week with Mini Replay 1.0. Mini Replay is a single disc. It is a disc image. It is like 140K. I forget the size of a disc image. 140K Apple II
floppy.
Containing 8 games. Now, friends, these 8 games cannot fit on a disc. How is that even possible? They never originally fit on a disc. It's classic games that you can play on any Apple II. And again,
wait a minute. Apple II not included. This is very important.
Yes, 48. Well, we'll get to that. 48K okay. Apple II. It'll fit on a single Apple II floppy. Burger Time, Dig Dug, Hard Hack Mac, Mario Brothers, Moon Patrol, Sneakers, Spy Hunter, and Wavy Navy. These are classic Apple II games. It will play on basically any 48K Apple II or later. How did he do it? Well, this guy is a genius. So, one of the things that he did is he used asymmetric encryption. Or not encryption, compression. So he used very powerful modern computers.
He used middle out compression. That's the
middle
key.
out. Yes. So he used modern computers to compress all of these programs in a way that the Apple II, the idea there is it's very hard to do the compression algorithm, but very easy to decompress. And so he's able to, I love this because it is modern technology entirely applied to make a tiny Apple II disk image with games on it from the 70s and 80s. So 8 games, you can play them with a keyboard, you can hook up a joystick if you want. It'll work on, if you can get this out to an Apple II floppy, you can stick it in the Apple II and play these games. What a fun idea. It's got all the cheats and mods and stuff built into it too. It's really like a lovingly recomposed version of all of these. It's the original games, but like with all the stuff fixed and set up properly on them so you can play them completely. And if you're saying to yourself, but I don't have an Apple II, good news, a new version of Virtual 2 came out this week. Virtual2.com, virtualii.com.
I'm playing Dig Dug. I'm so excited.
Virtual 2 is amazing. It's a great Mac Apple II emulator. It'll look at your Mac hard drive. You can mount floppies. It'll let you print to a text file on your Mac. It'll let you transfer data. Like there's so many things that it does. So even if you don't have an actual Apple II, you could get Virtual 2 version 13.2 just came out. Great. That app's been around for ages. He keeps updating it. And I love it. So I've got an Apple II behind me, but also
you can play it on Internet Archive on any computer.
You can just play Mini Replay on Internet Archive in the in-browser emulator, and that will also work.
I am doing it right now. This is so exciting to me.
It is amazing. I just love it is modern compression techniques and modern technology. We have the ability to do this. And some of these Apple II hackers are just doing kind of like incredible work. This is 4AM also does a thing called Total Replay, where there are like hard drive images with hundreds of Apple
with
II
my
games.
8-bit sound here.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's exactly what you want. You got to get in the vibe of it. So
that's you got them all. This is really cool.
Yeah. It's and if you look at his Mastodon thread, he talks a lot about the how he did it, but it's incredible. So
wow,
fun. There's a lot of fun going on in Apple II hacker circles.
Parents, show your kids this. This is what gaming was like when
last year
we were young.
At the St. Jude marathon for relay or the relay marathon for St. Jude. We had an Apple II there and we were messing around with it. And afterward, we took it back to Stephen Hackett's house and we set it up and we showed his kids the games on it.
Were they disdainful?
No, his son was like, "Whoa, what is this?" And good games are good games, even if they got blocky graphics and stuff. In fact, it makes it kind of like weirdly interesting that like what sort of beast is this thing? But then you're playing shoplifter and you're flying around a helicopter, and then the world just kind of drops away and you're playing a video.
That's a really good point. A good game is good because the game is good, not because
Exactly.
the graphics are good.
Exactly. And
That's a
there are
good thing
plenty
to
of
remember.
bad games with good graphics.
Yeah, more than plenty.
Yeah.
Jason Snell, sixcolors.com. Make sure you
Yes.
check in at the end of the week because Jason's doing his thing.
Thursday afternoon, Apple results. There'll be charts. There'll be analysis. And then we'll talk about it next week, too.
Yeah, we will talk about it next week, but really the best way to do it is just to go to sixcolors.com, sixcolors.com. Also, Jason's podcasts are all linked there at sixcolors.com/Jason.
Yep.
He does the best stuff. So always choose the good soap.
Thank you.
Sixcolors.com, ladies and gentlemen. Christina Warren, of course, the wonderful film girl. Now my best friend on Swarm. If you would just check in. You haven't checked in since 2024, Christina.
No, yes, I have. I've checked
you
in.
have?
Maybe it was a private. Yeah, I was going to say, we've been friends
Don't
for
make them
years,
private.
'cause
We're buddies. Let your buddies see what you're up to.
I was gonna say I checked in like 2 weeks ago. So
Wait a minute, they've just added ads. Order. No, I'm not happy. Order and reserve your favorite meals for delivery. They put an ad in for Grubhub or something. Yeah, diggity dang it. Used to be just a pure, beautiful check-in thing. They were never making any money on it. Just selling it to the government, that's all. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. You can watch us live. If you're a member of the club, of course, in the Club Discord, that's the special behind the velvet rope access. Often you see stuff before and after the show. No, I can't say that. It's not true. You can see it all if you go to everybody can. It's free. YouTube, Twitch, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. That's where we stream. After the fact, we put it up on the website because it's a podcast at twit.tv/MBW. Let's go left to right. MBW. We also have a YouTube channel dedicated to the video because, yes, we do audio and video of every show, even annoying Dig Dug audio. You can get that. That's a YouTube channel. Actually, all of our channels are easily accessed by going youtube.com/twit. And then you'll see a list of all the individual dedicated show channels. Probably the simplest thing to do these days, get yourself a podcast player, subscribe, and listen whenever you want. We love having you listen to the show or watch. You can do either or both. Thanks for joining us, everybody. But I am sorry to say it is my sad and solemn duty to tell you, you got to get back to work because you know what I'm saying. Break time is over. See you next week.